Hello and welcome to Ann Arbor, Michigan for WCBN Sports live coverage of Michigan football. Thank you for joining us on YouTube or over the FM airwaves on 88.3 FM Ann Arbor. My name is Kelin Flynn. Alongside me, Daniel Olson, Neal Sinha, three-man crew for the game today. Really excited to be bringing you coverage. The game. It's the greatest rivalry in all the land. There is no better place to be this fine Saturday at the end of November than in Ann Arbor, Michigan, the home of the Michigan Wolverines. This is the 119th meeting all-time between the Wolverines and the Buckeyes, and arguably none have had more at stake than today. The Big Ten East title, a trip to the college football playoff potentially, and a chance to win the national championship are all at stake for both of these teams. This is college football at its finest. Its masterpiece, its crown jewel. It does not get better than this. Two teams, two schools that share nothing but utter hatred for the other side. And neither would have it any other way. For the Buckeyes, these last 2 years have come as a shock. They had dominated the rivalry for a decade, and suddenly the Wolverines flipped the script and put together two dominant performances fueled by an unstoppable rushing attack. This year, the Buckeyes look different. A much improved defense has this squad rolling into the game undefeated with the number 2 scoring defense in the country behind you-know-who, the Michigan Wolverines. Ohio State's offense is still fueled by an elite core of skill players. When you look across the board, there's no one better in the country. Marvin Harrison Jr., arguably the best player in college football, is the leader of that bunch at wide receiver. A star running back in Travion Henderson is healthy and has provided a real spark of late. But for Michigan, they're without their leader, Jim Harbaugh. Coach Harbaugh was suspended for the final 3 games of the regular season by the Big Ten as a part of the ongoing investigation into the program. Sharon Moore has stepped up this season and is 3-0 as head coach, with wins over Bowling Green, Penn State, and Maryland. Now, Penn State and Maryland really was a nail-biter for Michigan fans, but Coach Moore comes into this game with the complete support of the president, the athletic department, the team, and the fan base. This game is as good as it gets, and we can't wait to take you all with us. Again, my name's Kelin Flynn. Alongside me, two of my good friends, Daniel Olson and Neal Sinha. Fellas, let's play some football. I mean, Michigan, Ohio State in the big house, number 2, number 3. This is college football at its peak. This is the mountaintop. Enjoy this, folks.
It does not get any better than this, and nor will this game mean as much as it does this season for the rest of college football history. In the coming years, you know, we've all talked about conference realignment, what's going to be happening with the college football playoff extending to 12 teams, or expanding to 12 teams, I should say. This game is never going to mean as much as it does today. So soak it up, enjoy it as much as possible. This is one of the last times that there will be such a big elimination game between 2 top 4 ranked teams in the countries. I mean, it doesn't get any better than this. The fans are loud. We just had all the seniors being listed off with their parents walking across the field. It doesn't get any better than a hate-filled rivalry like this between Michigan and Ohio State, the famous 10-year war. The game is what it's called for a reason. Dan, I mean, what else is there to say?
You said it all. Legacy-defining game here in Ann Arbor today. And, man, what an atmosphere we've got. This crowd has been packed to the gills. The student section was filled up with 45 minutes to go before kickoff. It's been an excellent atmosphere. Senior day, you probably heard the roars as their parents made their way onto the field. But this crowd is ready for some football, and I think we are as well. We expect a gritty Big Ten classic vintage football game today. A lot of hatred, a lot of hard hitting, and, man, I can't wait to get this thing started.
Well, fellas, Michigan is yet to run out. Both teams are still yet to run out of the field. We just had the senior day introductions. The parents of all the Michigan seniors were welcomed onto the field, and the Wolverines are now making their way out of the tunnel. It's senior day, so everyone in the program gets a chance to run out of the tunnel. If you're a senior, and our very own William Gregory, I believe, will get a chance to run out and tap that banner. Exciting stuff here from the big house. We just had the flyover. Dan, you said it. This student section is electric. For as much as the flack that the student section gets sometimes throughout the season, they have absolutely showed up today. I mean, we were here at around 10, and as soon as they opened those doors at 10:30, people were pouring into the student section. I cannot say enough good things about the fans in the maize and blue, and it is a maize and blue crowd throughout here. Very little scarlet and white. But let's get into the keys of the game. Let's talk some football as the Michigan team is set to run onto the field here. Dan, this is going to be a tough game. This is a different Ohio State team than we've seen the last couple of seasons. The Buckeyes defense is much better, and they don't have that bona fide superstar at quarterback that we're used to seeing from Ohio State. What are your keys to the game for Michigan first?
Well, I think for Michigan, for me, it starts with J.J. McCarthy. Obviously, he's gotten a lot of attention recently for some of his less than stellar play over the past 2 weeks. We'll get into some numbers later. He's struggled with Sharon Moore as the head coach and Harbaugh not on the sideline. And Michigan's got to get him in rhythm early. I know they like to pound the rock with Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards behind that big, powerful offensive line, but if McCarthy's not in rhythm early, he's going to have to make some throws on 3rd and long today if Michigan wants to beat the Buckeyes, and feel a lot more comfortable with him doing that if they can get him in rhythm early, use the play action, and use those big tight ends that they've got for him.
Neal, let's flip the script here. Talk to me about Ohio State. What have you seen from the Buckeyes this season that should make Michigan fans nervous coming into this game? What does Ohio State need to do to snap that 2-year losing streak against Michigan?
It's use the skill position players like Ohio State always tries to do. And so I think the difference now with this Buckeyes team is you got a Marvin Harrison Jr. that is, one, fully healthy. He has another year of college football experience. But I think the difference today for this Buckeyes team is Travion Henderson. He is finally fully healthy for Ohio State. It's his 3rd year, and he has been absolutely turning it up the last 3 weeks. Had a big-time last game against Minnesota with 15 carries for 146 yards and 2 touchdowns. I think it has to start on the ground game for the Buckeyes, and I think they try to scheme Harrison to be open. It's going to be a very interesting matchup with Marvin Harrison Jr. and Will Johnson today. They should be on each other for a lot, but we'll see how Michigan approaches it, whether or not Jesse Minter tries to go into a little bit more of a softer zone possibly to keep everything in front. And so very, very interesting today. I think also Kyle McCord is going to need a big game for Ohio State. He's looked a lot better as this season has progressed. As much as Michigan fans might want to disagree, Kyle McCord has been fantastic this year. 22 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He has gotten much better. He has the 6th best QBR in the country. So a lot of different things to watch out for from the skill position guys for Ohio State.
And no, Kyle McCord is not C.J. Stroud. No, he's not Dwayne Haskins. No, he's not Justin Fields. But that's a pretty high bar. That's 3 guys that went in the first round of the NFL draft, in the top half of the first round of the NFL draft. That's an incredibly high bar, and I don't think he needs to be at that level for Ohio State to win this football game. You talked about Travion Henderson. That man has been on an absolute tear these last couple of weeks. He has been dominating, put up a huge game against Minnesota, and I absolutely agree. I think Ryan Day is going to look to get the football to his skill players, to his top players to start this game. Expect a lot of touches for Marvin Harrison and Travion Henderson early, manufactured touches and easy ways to get them the ball in their hands and get them in space and just let them try to do their thing. Dan, anything that you think we missed on the Buckeye side, or you think we covered it?
Well, what cost them in the game last year was bringing a safety down into the box and allowing Michigan to get behind on some explosive runs, some explosive plays through the air. Cornelius Johnson, 2 big touchdown catches. Donovan Edwards, 2 big touchdown runs to seal that football game. They've done a lot more with the single high safety this year, keeping it in front of them, maintaining the football game, not getting beat on big plays, and that's done this defense wonders. They haven't allowed more than 17 points in a game yet this season. I'm expecting a low-scoring battle because Michigan does exactly the same thing, and it'll be up to whatever team can execute more efficiently on offense.
Possessions are going to be at a premium today. Both of these teams are 1,000% going to have stressing this entire week, protecting the football, taking care of the football, squeezing that football. Don't fumble the ball to the quarterbacks. Don't try to be the hero. Don't try to force the ball in the tight windows. Make the plays when they're there, but got to protect the football in this game. And I believe Michigan just won the coin toss.
My goodness, it is loud. And if you can't hear it over the broadcast, which I'm sure you definitely can, the Big House is absolutely rocking right now. You know, being someone who's gone to Michigan games since 2009, I think the 2021 Ohio State game is the only game that really rivals this in terms of the atmosphere right now. And honestly, this one's living up to the billing so far with just the fans.
There's not an empty seat in the house. Michigan has won the coin toss, and they will defer. That means that Kyle McCord and company are going to get the football first. Ohio State will be the first ones with the football. Does not get better than this, folks. Michigan, Ohio State. Number 2, number 3. Chance to punch your ticket to the college football playoff and get a crack at the national championship down in Houston.
You know, one last thing to note, too, about the Ohio State offense, Kelin, before we get started here. Watch out for the scheming that Ryan Day does in the pre-snap processes. So what the Buckeyes do a lot is they line up in bunch formations, things like that, and they send guys in motion to see what defense Michigan plays in, or in general any of their opponents playing. And then sometimes they go back to a bunch set even if they break apart from it. So they're trying to analyze what Michigan's set in. Watch out for that a lot today. It's a concept that Mike McDaniel with Miami Dolphins have done a ton this season. It's worked out very well. We'll see if Ryan Day and Ohio State continues with that today.
The student section is rocking. They've got the maize pom-poms out. Michigan wearing the all blues today. Blue tops, blue pants, the famous winged helmet. Maize numbers and white accessories for the Wolverines. For the Buckeyes, it's white tops with the scarlet lettering, silver pants, and the famous helmets with those Buckeye stickers. Tommy Doman set to kick it deep for Michigan. Xavier Johnson back for the Buckeyes. Michigan, Ohio State, live on WCBN Sports. Here we go. End over end kick is going to bounce for a touchback. So Kyle McCord gets it at the 25, and Ohio State will take over first.
Well, already some chippiness on the field right there.
You expected that.
No doubt about it. And the Michigan defense getting the fans absolutely going here. It's going to be key to get off to a good start for this Michigan team. They did it last week against Maryland, of course, but they weren't able to hold strong throughout the whole game. Get off to a good start, set the tone early.
Neal, you talked about what you expect to see from the Buckeye offense. Dan, real quick, what's the strength of this Michigan defense?
Michigan intercepts a lot of passes, first in the nation, and passes attempted 5% of the time. McCord's got to make good decisions.
McCord in the pistol, Henderson behind him. Claps his hands, it's a handoff to Henderson. Henderson up the gut and fights forward for about 5. And going right into the teeth of that Michigan defense. You talked about the turnovers Michigan's been able to force. I'd say that this interior defensive line is another big strength for the Wolverines. Pistol again for the Buckeyes. 2 receivers on the bottom, 1 on the top. Henderson the back. Stover in line. Fleming the lone receiver up high. Harrison and Igbuka on the near side. They bring Igbuka in motion into the backfield now. McCord receives the snap. It's another handoff to Henderson. Henderson going to be stacked up and dropped at the line of scrimmage. No gain. Chris Jenkins was there to hit him first.
Great job by the senior out of Olney, Maryland right there, getting off the block as he was falling down. Managed to get an arm on Henderson. Big time.
Sainris's still in there as well. Buckeyes go quick on 3rd and 4, and Igbuka dropped it. Big 3 and out forced by the Michigan defense. McCord hit Igbuka on a slant over the middle of the field. Buckeyes went quick. Michigan was not set. But the normally sure-handed receiver from the Buckeyes drops it. And that's a quick 3 and out for Ohio State. Jesse Mirko on to punt.
Ohio State got what they wanted with the tempo. Michigan was not ready. Igbuka with the quick 8-yard slant was there. Throw was a little bit low. Dropped it.
Jake Thaw back deep to receive for Michigan. Mirko receives the punt and boots it away. End over end kick fielded at about the 35, and that's where Michigan will take over. Fair catch called for by Thaw. So now it's J.J. McCarthy and company. McCarthy suffered a little bit of an injury against Penn State, came up limping, and we saw in the entire second half of that game, all Michigan did was clap the hands and turn around and hand the football to Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards. McCarthy has said that he feels better going into this game, said he was still a little banged up at Maryland. McCarthy will start off in the shotgun with Corum to his right, something we've seen a lot from Michigan this year. They bring Loveland in motion. Wilson in motion as well. JJ drops back to pass, and he's going to throw it into the turf, looking for Cornelius Johnson at about the 42.
And Kelin, this is the side of the ball that, honestly, I think has the most amount of questions for either side. J.J. McCarthy dealing with a little bit of an ankle injury. We'll see how much that affects him today. And just as you said, Michigan's game plan offensively has changed so much the last 2 or 3 weeks than it was at the beginning of the year.
Michigan goes trips to the right. J.J. in the shotgun, Corum to his left. Loveland, Wilson, and Johnson, the receivers. It's a handoff to Corum. Corum up the middle, picks up about 5. So that'll bring up 3rd and 5 for Michigan. Both of these teams have had third downs on their opening drives. Ohio State couldn't execute. Michigan looking to stay on the field.
Some good push by the interior of that Michigan offensive line. Zach Zinter leading the way. We'll see if they can get those O-linemen up to the second level and pop some big runs as this game continues.
Michigan gonna go empty here. Cornelius Johnson all alone up top. Donovan Edwards in the game split out wide. They like to do this. They'll motion Edwards into a diamond formation. It's a screen to Dono. Dono nowhere to go, and that'll bring up 4th down and 5.
Yeah,
Davison Igbinosin forced him out.
Not sure I really like that play call right there by Sharon Moore and company. I think, you know, when you're playing a team like Ohio State that is so fast on the outside with people like Davison Igbinosin, I'm not sure you try testing that. We'll see if the play calling changes if Michigan tries going more on the ground game early on in these downs.
So that brings on Tommy Doman. Doman had a fantastic week last week against Maryland. Down to punt inside the 1. Igbuka back deep to receive. Igbuka calls fair catch at the 24, and that's where Kyle McCord will get the ball back. So 2 quick 3 and outs forced by each of these defenses. And going into the game, we kind of were talking up here in the booth beforehand that this was going to be a defensive battle. Not what we've seen these last 2 seasons where Michigan was putting up 45 points in Columbus and these high-scoring affairs back and forth. I think this is going to be a defensive battle. Dan, would you agree?
I certainly do agree. The top 2 scoring defenses in the country, Michigan allowing 9 points a game, Ohio State allowing 9.5 points a game. And Ohio State, mentioned it earlier, hasn't allowed more than 17 points in a single game this season. Michigan was the same until Maryland last week. But flipping it really quickly to the Michigan side of the football on offense, it was an impressive. I liked the early setup of some of those play calls there. Trying to get J.J. McCarthy in an early rhythm. Just missed a couple throws early, but allowing him to set his feet, make some short throws, and get the feel of this football game early, I think is key for the Wolverines.
We're at our first media timeout of the day. Neal, 2 drives, not much going on the offensive sides. What have you liked from both of these defenses early, and has it been basically what you've expected?
Yeah, I mean, you know, obviously there hasn't been too much so far, just 3 downs on either side. I think what's going to be very interesting today is it's going to be more of the scheming offensively to get open for both of these offenses. I think just as Dan mentioned, these are great defenses. I mean, allowing 9 and 9.5 points per game is absolutely unbelievable. And so I think, you know, expect a game more similar to what we saw in 2016 between Michigan and Ohio State. I don't think there's going to be the scoring like we saw in 2018, 2019, and over the last 2 years as well. And so we'll see. I think for Ohio State, I think the game plan has to be, in my opinion, you get the running game going on the early downs, get ahead of the chains, because then that frees up the scheme entirely for guys like Marvin Harrison as well as Emeka Egbuka to just sit in the slants and make plays across the middle. We'll see if they can do that with TreVeyon Henderson, though.
Michigan's secondary corner spot behind Will Johnson has been a question all year, even throughout the offseason. They brought in Josh Wallace as a transfer from UMass. He did not have a great week against Maryland last week. He's out there right now, matched up on Fleming. Buckeyes in the shotgun. Henderson the lone back to the left of Kyle McCord. Stover in line. Harrison all alone, matched up with Will Johnson on the far side, just outside the hash. They bring Fleming in motion. It's a handoff. Henderson, nowhere to go. Picked up maybe one.
A little bit of a disguised zone coverage there by the Wolverines. They didn't have anyone coming across in motion to follow the blocker right there. So they played a little zone, but they tried disguising it by having a little bit of press coverage on the outsides.
Michigan's crashed the left side of that Ohio State line quick, hard, early.
Pistol formation for the Buckeyes. McCord looks back to the sideline for the signal. Henderson the tailback. Two receivers split out wide. At the top, Harrison the lone receiver on the bottom. Stover motions into the slot. McCord looking to throw. Got Henderson on a dump off, and Henderson has space. That's a first down for Ohio State. Nobody stuck with the tailback.
Saw Junior Colson in the middle of the field there. Had to run up the seam with Cade Stover, which opened up the underneath spot for Henderson to sit down. And good read by McCord and pick up the first down for the Ohio State.
Yeah, a lot of respect right there by the Michigan DBs. Mike Sainer still being one of them, sitting back in coverage, trying to play for Egbuka and Harrison, and left the middle wide open. Expect that to happen a lot today.
Ball in the 37, 1st and 10 for Ohio State. Trips on the right, one receiver up top. Fleming in motion. McCord looking to throw, and that's into the dirt. Harrison was open. McCord just couldn't put it on him. 2nd and 10. That's the second throw we've seen from one of these quarterbacks that was just a flat-out miss. McCarthy threw it in the dirt, looking for Cornelius Johnson. That time not on target for Marvin Harrison.
Little antsy feet there from Kyle McCord. Not any pressure on him yet in the passing game, but you can tell he's a little nervous back there.
2nd and 10 now for the Buckeyes. Shotgun formation. Harrison and Will Johnson matched up on the near side. Two receivers up top. They go to the pistol now. It's a handoff to Henderson. Henderson looking for space, nowhere to go. Josiah Stewart brought him down.
Yeah, and it looked like TreVeyon slipped a little bit right there, but nonetheless, Michigan with great penetration off the left edge. Michigan's going to be in this nickelback coverage for most of this game. I just have to wonder, though, when they bring in Ernest Hausman and go in a little bit more of a 4-3 base. Obviously respecting the Ohio State receivers a lot right now.
Ohio State going to spread it out here. Xavier Johnson checks in for TreVeyon Henderson. They go 5 wide. Need 10. It's a screen. Looking for Johnson. Johnson going to be real close to that first down marker. Going to be marked a yard short. Ryan Day with the decision here.
Well, and the decision might be to challenge that spot. I tell you what, I think that wasn't the best of spots for Ohio State right there. I thought Xavier Johnson landed on the first down marker, but we'll see here.
And Jesse Mirko is going to come on to punt it away, it looks like. So 4th and a yard, and Ryan Day opting to put some trust in his special teams and his defense rather than give Michigan potentially a short field. So Mirko comes on to flip the field. Jake Thaw back deep to receive for Michigan. Mirko's punt is away. Line drive kick. Thaw comes up to field it at the 22.
Wow.
Was ran into by his own teammate. I believe that was Zeke Berry, but excellent hands from Jake Thaw to hold on to that football. Special teams mistake there from Michigan, but it does not cost them. Again, Jake Thaw holds on through contact from his own teammate.
Curious call to punt it there by Ryan Day, but given it's so early in this game, 9:37 on the clock here in the first quarter, in a game that we've talked about, two hard-hitting defenses that make a lot of plays, don't allow a lot of points. Trying to flip the field position makes some sense, but you'd hope for a much better punt. Something down inside the 20 there would be nice for Ohio State.
And you got to wonder, Dan, I mean, it's early to start discussing, game management and those decisions on fourth down or whether to go for them or not. But I will say, Ryan Day, part of the reason he got a lot of the flack that he did last year was not being as aggressive late on in that game. They had that 1 4th and 7 that C.J. Stroud was begging his coaches to leave him on the field for. They had another fourth down in the Michigan red zone where they kicked a field goal earlier in that game. So you got to wonder today how aggressive he gets. I mean, that right there was a 4th and 1 near the 50.
I mean,
decided not to go for it.
That might have been less than 1 yard. That was a real short distance there for Ohio State to try to convert. And Day thought about it but elected to bring his punt crew on.
Well, Michigan's bottled up the run early. Henderson got 5 yards on an early carry, but for the most part, they've done an excellent job of shedding blocks on that outside, and I think that must have influenced the decision there for Ryan Day.
And that's a good point, Dan, because I think, when a lot of people think of a good rush defense, they think solely of limiting rushing yards. What it also does is it limits the decisions made by opponents on key plays like fourth downs, like 2-point conversions maybe. If you have such a stout interior front like Michigan does, it makes those decisions harder for your opponent coaches. And so we'll see what happens later.
And going back to that Notre Dame game earlier this season, we saw Ohio State struggle a couple of times on 4th and shorts to pick up that 1.5 yards, that yard. We saw one of those plays that instead of handing it off up the middle, they tried an end around to Egbuka. Egbuka was stuffed for a loss. The one time they converted it was on the goal line when Notre Dame only had 10 men on the field, and they were able to run right at that gap, missing the extra defender.
Yeah, and what a game that was. I mean, we watched it back as we were preparing for this game. But those two teams back in September, I mean, we thought that at the time was for sure a top 10 matchup. Now Notre Dame's fallen out of the rankings a little bit, but great game. And I think that was a great test for Ohio State. A lot of people talk about Michigan's schedule and not getting to play these big testers at the beginning of the season and learn a lot about your team. I think Ohio State learned a lot about this team early on in this season because of games like that.
And they've certainly been in some grind fest as well, both the Penn State game in Columbus and the game on the road at Notre Dame. Low-scoring battles. Ohio State has proven they're built to win this kind of football game.
Especially for Kyle McCord, getting experience in a hostile environment in a big-time game. But nothing compares to this. Michigan now on offense. J.J. McCarthy in the shotgun with Corum to his left. 2 receivers on the near side, 1 up top. It's Colston Loveland. It's a handoff. Corum bounces it to the outside, looking for space, nowhere to go. Gets back to the line of scrimmage, brings up 2nd and 10.
And although that got completely bottled up by JTT right there, I like the play calling early on in this game. Try to get the running game going, and that can try to free up J.J. McCarthy. If it doesn't work, if Ohio State continues to load the box, fine, so be it. You start airing it out a little bit, but try getting the running game going early.
JT Tuimoloau and Steele Chambers combined for the tackle there. Michigan, 2 backs in the backfield. Stacked front for the Buckeyes. It's a handoff to Edwards. Edwards looking for space. Donovan Edwards with a little bit of a scamper there. Dropped at the 27-yard line. Will bring up 3rd and manageable. 3rd and 4 now for Michigan.
You mentioned the heavy box for the Buckeyes. Michigan had a heavy set in there. Had a couple lead blockers there for Edwards and created a nice hole for him there on the right side. And gain of 6, and now this is where J.J. McCarthy has to be great on these 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5 situations.
Michigan got stopped their last possession. 3rd and 4 now from their own 27. They bring Loveland in motion. J.J. looking left, pocket collapsing, trying to escape, breaks through some pressure. J.J. nowhere to go. He's going to be, I believe, just short of the sticks. Good contain by Tommy Eichenberg and those Buckeye linebackers. Pocket collapse and McCarthy forced to try to escape.
Yeah, JJ's just sort of caught in no man's land right there. Donovan Edwards was trying to help him out, but I think Dono there needs to maybe cut back and try to just free himself up so that you can get a defender off of JJ.
Steele Chambers was on the coverage there on Edwards, and he was able to come up and force JJ out. Doman boots it deep for Ibuka, who will backpedal, and that's going to drop inside the 10 and roll in for a touchback. A booming punt from Tommy Doman, and I mean a monster punt.
You know, and it's small, but I got to say, the confidence in Tommy Doman, I think that's been growing the last 2 weeks. And obviously against Maryland had that fantastic punt. I think he's looked a little different today. I mean, in his first full season as a punter for the Wolverines, like I think he feels a lot more confidence right there. That great punt. Unfortunately, coverage wasn't able to get downfield quick enough. But Michigan, I mean, they flipped the field entirely right there.
So Michigan had it at their own 27. Now Buckeyes will take over at their own 20. As the 2003 Big Ten Championship Michigan team is currently being honored. We saw Lloyd Carr is in attendance today. A lot going on here for the biggest game of the season. There weren't really any marquee games at the Big House this year aside from this Ohio State game, but Ann Arbor has showed up in a big way. I mean, it's been the center of the college football world. College game day here, Big Ten kickoff here. Obviously the noon game on Fox, very sought after time slot, and it's the most valuable game of the year for those TV companies.
I was just going to say, I mean, every year it seems like this game is breaking some new records, and I think today there's a very good chance that this one might break the all-time record if it's a close game at the end, like I think it will be. Going to be very interesting to see how these two heavyweights continue to duke it out. It honestly seems like so far it's kind of like you have two heavyweights in the boxing ring and they're just stalking each other out, but no one's really throwing a punch so far. It's the defenses that have held strong.
Nothing overly creative from either offense yet. And going back to that first drive for Ohio State, that drop by Emeka Ibuka, plays like that have to be cleaned up on both sides of the ball, especially on the offenses. It's going to be a tough day to move the football today. Drops like that cannot happen if you want to give yourself maximize your opportunities here, because there's going to be very few of them, as we've seen so far.
And you talked about something interesting there, Dan, with the creativity. We've seen in this game, especially the last two seasons, Michigan and Jim Harbaugh pull out some stuff deep in the bag of tricks. I'd expect a flea flicker today, almost undoubtedly at some point. I'm sure Ohio State's looking for that as well, but you just have to know Michigan has a couple of things in their bag that they're looking to pull out against the Buckeyes today, and I'm sure Ryan Day has the same.
Yeah, you know, I was just going to say, part of me honestly wonders so far with two drives apiece that we've seen, I honestly wonder how much of this has been scripted so far and when they start going off the script, because Michigan's only had, two possessions, and both of them ended very quickly. Ohio State got that one first down, and then that was it. But you have to kind of wonder when they start opening things up. I think that might be in 3 or 4 minutes. They're probably still sticking to the original game plan right now, but we'll look for some bigger plays and some more creative plays later on in this game, especially in the second quarter.
So here we go. Both teams back on the field. Ohio State in the pistol. They'll transition to a shotgun look with Henderson to the left of McCord. The receivers split out right, one to the left. McCord receives a snap. It's a fake. And that's going to be picked off. Will Johnson. And he's going to be brought down inside the 15. A big-time turnover forced by the Michigan defense.
Mentioned it earlier. Michigan picks off 5% of the passes that the other teams throw. Leads the nation in that statistic, and Will Johnson just jumped that slant route. Absolutely no chance. Not sure what Kyle McCord sees there. He's had some interesting throws to open this game, and that's a costly, costly turnover.
And McCord was looking for Marvin Harrison there, and Will Johnson, sticky coverage, and he hasn't had quite the season I think that people were maybe expecting him to have this season, but he made some big plays in the Big Ten Championship game last year, and in the biggest game of the season for Michigan, comes up with a huge one there.
Yeah, Kyle McCord's eyes did not deviate from Marvin Harrison Jr. at all on that whole play. That was very easy to see where he was going to go, and Will Johnson with great coverage and technique sitting there.
Now Michigan at their own 7, needs 6 here. JJ claps his hands, handoff, Corum right side, maybe 1. And Now it's time to bend and not break for this Ohio State defense. Michigan taking it over inside the Buckeye 10. Has to come away with a touchdown here. You have to take advantage of that turnover that defense gave you.
You definitely do, and I honestly, and we'll get to the Ohio State offense, I just want to mention real quick, you have to wonder how much of that is going to affect the first-time starting quarterback in Kelin McCord. How does he respond to that? That's going to be very interesting to watch the rest of this game. But Michigan, it's got to be 7 right here.
Kelin McCord, only 4 picks all year. He's been good at taking care of the football. JJ claps his hands. Up the middle to Corum. Corum fighting. Going to be stacked up just short. A lane opened up in those Buckeye linebackers. That was Eichenberg that came in to take him down. Ball inside the 2 now for Michigan, and they're going to go heavy set. Trente Jones and Max Bredesen checking for Michigan. Buckeyes going to bring in some big fellas as well.
And you know Michigan has great faith in their big men up front. I'd imagine they've got 2 plays to get 2 yards here.
Couple of 300-pounders checking in for Ohio State. Michigan, power, Corum up the middle. Did he get it? Waiting for the signal, and they're going to mark him short. That was really close. Now 4th down from inside the 1, and you've got to imagine Sharon Morse keeping his offense on the field.
Looked like from this view his helmet was in, but the ball was behind his helmet. I mean, I don't think that ball can be placed any closer to the goal line.
We get another look at it here. That looks like a touchdown, and they're going to review this, I think.
I mean, I was going to say the line judge came in from the end with his left leg literally on the goal line, marking it with his left hand. It didn't really make sense to me.
And we're going to get another look at this one. I think that Blake Corum got in there just barely, but I would be pretty surprised if this doesn't result in 6 points for Michigan. As we get another look at this replay, this wasn't the best angle. I think he's clearly in there. That's got to be 6 for Michigan. Blake Corum from 2 yards out.
Yep.
And we'll wait for the official signal, but.
And for Blake Corum, that would be rushing touchdown number 21 on the season. He's chasing down the all-time career rushing touchdowns number for Michigan. Just had a fantastic year reaching pay dirt.
And if this is ruled a touchdown, 21 on the season for Blake Corum will be the single season record for the Michigan Wolverines. And no one more deserving than number 2. One of the big reasons he said that he came back to Michigan was to play in this game right here. Did not get to, was technically active, played 2 snaps, but for all intents and purposes, did not get to play in that game last year against Ohio State, dealing with that meniscus injury in his knee. And now back in the big house as we get our call. Wow. Ron Snodgrass rules that was still short, and Michigan, I am in shock right now. That ball was clearly across the line. Michigan going to go for it on 4th and 1 now here. It's a handoff. Corum over the top. There it is. Blake Corum. Touchdown, Michigan. Wolverines on top. 6-0 here at the big house on top of the Buckeyes.
What a start. I mean, what a start. A little bit of a slow beginning offensively, but Michigan capitalizes on the pick. They get the 7 that they should have, or the 6 so far. And Blake Corum officially now with number 21 passes his old teammate Hassan Haskins.
Now James Turner on for the PAT. Snap, hold, all good, and the kick is pure. Michigan 7-0 on top of Ohio State behind a Will Johnson interception. Will Johnson picked him off, and the return put Michigan at the 7 of Ohio State. A couple of handoffs to Blake Corum, and it's Michigan on top 7-0 early in Ann Arbor. Big time stuff from the defense leading to the Michigan offense, putting 7 up on the board, and that has been the recipe for success all season, Neal, for Michigan.
It definitely has. It definitely has. And the thing that I'm just thinking about right now, is how does Kyle McCord respond? Just his 5th pick of the season. Ohio State cannot just solely go to a rushing attack on the offense and expect to win this game. They're going to need McCord to make plays. And so how does he respond? I'm telling you, it's shaky when you own a road environment like Michigan and throw a pick early and try to come back from that. And we'll see, because I think the game script of this game, my view of it coming into this is that it would start similar to what we saw in 2021. Michigan already were on a similar path. Michigan started the 2021 game with a touchdown, but those two kept going back and forth, and it was 14-13 at halftime. What can Ohio State do to respond here? You don't want to get down 2 possessions. Obviously very early to start thinking about that, but OSU needs to at least convert a couple first downs on this drive.
And we talked about that creativity earlier, specifically on offense. I think this is where if you're Ohio State, get the ball to TreVeyon Henderson, get the ball to Marvin Harrison Jr., whether it's screens, whether it's motion, maybe use them as some decoys as well to try and open some things up, because McCord looks unsettled at this moment, and that interception was a perfect encapsulation of that. Stared the receiver down the entire time, and I think if you're Ryan Day, try and get your man back in rhythm, give him some more confidence, and it would certainly help to build off a little bit of a running game as well.
I think even more concerning for Ohio State is there was a clean pocket there for McCord that whole time. McCord was not under heavy pressure. He just stared down Harrison that whole way, and Will Johnson, the Grosse Pointe South alum, picks him off.
McCord's clock has certainly been sped up a little bit, whether it's the environment, whether it's the game, all of it. He's certainly looking a little bit sped up, and he struggled a bit on the road. All 5 of his interceptions have been on the road. In those 2 games against Penn State and Notre Dame, he completed less than 60% of his passes and only threw 1 touchdown. We talked about the low-scoring battles they were in there, so it's been a struggle for McCord so far, but he's got talented players, and he's got a good coaching staff, and they have to do a good job of getting him into position to succeed here on this drive.
It does not take a lot for Henderson or Harrison or Igbuka, any of these guys, to pop one. I mean, a 7-point lead for Michigan can evaporate like that. But you talked about it, Dan. You've got to get your quarterback in rhythm, because he's the engine of this offense. He's what makes this thing go. And if Michigan is able to continue to defend the run like they have so far today, Neal, that's going to make it really difficult to get the passing game going.
I was just going to say, expect some gadget plays maybe on this drive by Ohio State, trying to get Marvin Harrison going maybe on some screens or something, just to relieve McCord of a little bit of pressure so they can start getting a rhythm going.
Tommy Doman set to boot it away. Michigan up top, 7-0 on Ohio State. Doman sends it into the Michigan end zone for a touchback. Xavier Johnson lets it roll. And so now McCord back on the field at the Buckeye 25. And we've alluded at it, but Neal, these next 3 plays for Ohio State are going to be huge. You need to pick up a first down. You need to get something going here. What's the play script if you're Ryan Day? How are you getting your guy back in rhythm? Because McCord has talent. He's a 5-star recruit coming in.
I think you start it with the run up the middle here. They're lined up possibly for it. And then second down, I think you throw a screen to Igbuka or Marvin Harrison, and we'll see if they'll need a 3rd down after that.
Shotgun. Henderson to the right of McCord. It's a toss play to the right side. Henderson looking for the edge and picks up 4.
I like that play call there. Get Henderson in some space, right? It's a pitch, getting your offensive line moving, trying to build their confidence. Let them go hit somebody a little bit smaller than them too. Give some confidence, get some juice going in this offense.
And that's exactly right. If you're Ohio State, you've got to get some juice going. Just had a hugely deflating series there. Need to find it. And number 18 and number 32 are going to be the ones to give you that juice. Harrison all alone on the far side with Will Johnson across from him. They bring Igbuka and Fleming to that side and flip Harrison to try to free him up off Will Johnson. Josh Wallace now matched up with Harrison. Pistol formation, Henderson behind McCord. It's a handoff to Henderson. TreVeyon Henderson looking for some space. Tries to bounce it, nowhere to go. Pickup of 1. 3rd and 4 now for Ohio State.
Just well done by the Wolverines. Very disciplined play right there. They set the right edge, and you see Mike Sainris still play contain right there. Well done, not coming off the inside to pursue TreVeyon Henderson. He set the edge and contained.
Michigan's been really well disciplined so far in this game, containing the run. It's been a big key reason Ohio State's in these 3rd and 5s.
7-0 ball game, 3rd and 4 for the Buckeyes. 4:15 to go in the first quarter. 2 receivers on each side. Henderson in the backfield with McCord. It's a pass. Kyle McCord looking. Marvin Harrison's got it just shy of the 45, and that's an excellent pitch and catch. Marvin Harrison with his first big play of the game.
Sometimes, guys, there's just not much you can do as a defender when the ball is thrown as perfectly as that was by Kyle McCord, and Marvin Harrison Jr. makes the adjustment. You wish the DB had made the turnaround, though, to find the ball.
Buckeyes go hurry up, 24-yard connection there. McCord looking for him again, and he overthrew him that time. Tried to go right back to Marvin Harrison. That brings up 2nd and 10.
And we wondered how much we'd see of Will Johnson on Marvin Harrison Jr. It's been a lot. Been matched up in the slot. He's been matched up outside. The only time they've seen it is when they've motioned Marvin across the field. Will Johnson's done an excellent job so far.
2nd and 10 now for Ohio State. 3:37 to go here in the first quarter. Harrison all alone at the top with Will Johnson. Shotgun formation for the Buckeyes. Henderson to the left of McCord. They bring Fleming in motion. McCord looking. Pressure coming from Stewart, and he's got to throw it away. A flag thrown, potentially a hold.
Yeah, it looked like Mason Graham got just toppled after that, after he fell down initially. That's going to be a hold on Ohio State, almost certainly.
McCord threw it away, so that'll bring up 3rd and 10 pending the penalty.
Oh, wow.
And they're going to call hands to the face on Michigan, so that'll move the chains and bring up a first down. 15-yard penalty, costly there for the Wolverines. So ball now on the 27 of Michigan after a big penalty.
It's the right call by the officials. I mean, I will say Mason Graham got toppled, and it looked like with the way that he threw the flag that's what it was going to be on, but a break for the Buckeyes.
And pardon me, that was a catch by Stover on the sideline there, so that explains why Ohio State's all the way up to the 27 off the penalty. Here come the Buckeyes now in Michigan territory for the first time today. McCord claps his hands. Handoff. Henderson looking for space, nowhere to go. Picks up 1, maybe 2. Good push from the offensive line from Ohio State, but there was not a single gap to run through for Henderson.
Michigan really setting the edge well on these run plays, forcing Henderson up the middle, up toward the big bodies, then doing an excellent job of tackling.
Look at the big bodies of Michigan just swallowing up blocks. Cam Good, Kenneth Grant, a couple of 300-pounders in there. Trips to the left side for Ohio State. Stover in line on the right. Henderson in shotgun to the right of McCord. McCord looking to throw. Going for Stover, and it's incomplete. Nearly picked off by Mike Barrett. Great coverage on the play from the linebacker, Mike Barrett. And that was a 50-50 ball that Mike Barrett almost came down with.
Great job, honestly, by Stover right there playing defense. That's a play where McCord shouldn't have made that decision, right to Mike Barrett's hands, and Stover just had to break that one up.
Yeah, and he stared Stover down again, and Barrett dropped back from that linebacker spot.
Big 3rd and 8 now for Ohio State at the Michigan 25-yard line.
See if Michigan can create any pressure here with some stunts up front.
Need to get to the 17. Buckeyes have 3 receivers to the left of McCord. Harrison all alone on the right, and they're going to need a timeout. This Michigan crowd being a factor early. 7-0 Wolverines, 3rd and 8 for Ohio State, and they've got to call timeout. 2:21 to go in the first quarter.
And it just seems like Ohio State's a little shaken right now, a little out of rhythm. You know, they eventually went down the field on this drive thanks to a penalty and a deep throw to Marvin Harrison. But other than that, the Buckeyes have had very little success. And so this is a big play. 3rd and 8 right here. This is where Jesse Minter talks about those 4-point plays that they talked about nonstop against Michigan or against Ohio State last year in 2022, where they need a stop in field goal range for the Buckeyes, and that saves you 4 points from giving up a touchdown in comparison to a field goal.
My guess is Michigan's going to simulate some pressure here. They're going to show a pressure look. McCord's clock has been sped up all day. Give them a lot to look at, a lot to think about, and see if they can force potentially a turnover here.
And I like what you said before the last play, Dan. Watch for some stunts right here by Michigan, some overlapping rushers.
3rd and 8 for the Buckeyes. 3 receivers to the left. Harrison all alone on the right. Will Johnson matched up with him. McCord looks left. Going to throw to the left, and it's incomplete. Looking for Ibuka, just couldn't put it on him.
And there were the stunts, Dan, right there. I mean, they had Jalen Harrell come around on a little bit of a loop. Michigan does that a lot. Great coverage downfield.
You saw the stunts. I saw the beautiful switch release at the switch coverage at the top there between Josh Wallace and Sanders. One guy went inside, one guy went out. Wallace stayed outside. Excellent coverage. Good stop by the Wolverines defense.
Field goal opportunity now for Ohio State. Jaden Fielding, 14 for 16 on the season. Kick is up, and it is good. So a 42-yard field goal from Jaden Fielding makes it a 4-point game. Ohio State with 3 now. Costly penalty on Michigan with a hands to the face. Sets up Ohio State deep in Michigan territory, but the defense holds, forcing the Buckeyes to settle for 3.
Michigan's got to be happy with that. I mean, I know, again, it was just 2 big plays in the penalty and the deep pass to Marvin Harrison Jr. that costed them right there. But you're fine giving up 3 points and near the red zone. I mean, that is completely fine. That's what this Michigan defense did last year. Ohio State kicked a lot of field goals against the Wolverines last year, kicking, I believe, 3 total. That's not a winning formula today. The Buckeyes and Ryan Day, they need to convert touchdowns.
So now Michigan set to receive for the first time today. Here comes the Michigan special teams unit. Samaj Morgan and Jake Thaw back deep to receive for Michigan. Jaden Fielding will kick it away for the Buckeyes. And that is a deep kick, going to be fair caught. So Michigan will take over at the 25. J.J. McCarthy now gets a chance to drive down the field and counter. After the short field, Michigan just turned and handed it to Corum 4 straight times and came away with 7.
Still haven't seen a lot of success from this Michigan offense. Obviously 7 points on the board, but only had to go 10 yards or so. And it took 4 Corum handoffs to get those 10 yards. I'd expect here to see a little bit more motion. And they've got Edwards out here on the backfield. Maybe get him in space. Try and get something clicking for this offense as well.
Here's Michigan now. J.J. McCarthy in the shotgun. Got Edwards to his left. Trips on the left side. They bring Wilson in motion. It's a throw to Roman Wilson. Wilson catches it and going to be forced out of bounds after a first down. Nope, they're going to mark him short. 1 yard short, so it'll be 2nd and 1 for Michigan. J.J. McCarthy completes it to Roman Wilson, and Michigan brings up 2nd and 1.
I just love the play call right there by Sharon Moore. McCarthy, we haven't seen too much from him, honestly, the last 2 or 3 weeks in terms of throwing the ball deep downfield. Try to get him going here in the flats and these short slants.
Health on the offensive line, big for Michigan today, with Ladarius Henderson back. McCarthy claps his hands. It's a handoff to Edwards. Edwards up the middle. He's got enough for the first down. So that'll move the chains. Edwards marked down at the 36, 1st and 10 for the Wolverines.
And that short run set up by that 9-yard completion on first down, keeping Michigan ahead of the sticks. It was an easy flat route to Roman Wilson, allowing J.J. McCarthy to maybe find a little bit of rhythm here for the Michigan offense.
First down pickup of the day for Michigan. Ball at the 36 of the Wolverines. 2 receivers to the left, 2 to the right. Edwards the back. It's play action. They've got Loveland over the middle of the field. Colston Loveland into Buckeye territory. Big pickup there for the Wolverines.
I love that play call again. I mean, you know, they're setting up relatively easier plays for J.J. McCarthy. They're not forcing him to throw jump balls or deep downfield. That's a nice play action where McCarthy pulls it out of Corum's hands pretty late right there, and Loveland just wide open across the middle.
Big completion for Michigan puts them in Ohio State territory. Going jumbo here with Edwards as the tailback, and timeout Ohio State. Ryan Day burns his second timeout of the first quarter with 28 seconds to go. Michigan had jumbo formation out there, Bredesen in at fullback, and Edwards the tailback. Day saw something he didn't like. So after a 16-yard completion to Colston Loveland, Michigan set up with 1st and 10 at the Ohio State 48, looking to tack more on.
Neal touched on it a little bit, but I love the play action calls here for Michigan and J.J. McCarthy, because set up the run well today. Obviously, they haven't run it great yet, but you know, if you're Ohio State, in the back of your mind that Michigan can and will try and dominate up front. Just a little fake handoff, get the tight end slipping, and I think it's an easy 8 to 10 yards every time for these Wolverines.
Both teams set back on the field. 3 receivers to the right, 1 to the left for McCarthy. Edwards, the lone back in shotgun with JJ. JJ drops back to pass. Good pocket. JJ looking downfield for Roman Wilson. Incomplete. Real good coverage on the play there from Denzel Burke.
Yeah, and I think sometimes you see JJ try to make throws that aren't necessarily needed. That was one of them. Roman Wilson was covered the whole way by Burke, and JJ still made the decision to throw it up there. I think, you know, we talked about McCord's clock getting rushed a little bit. JJ's got to sit back a little bit and relax sometimes.
Corum and Edwards on either side of JJ now. It's a handoff to Edwards. Donovan Edwards looking for some space. Can't find much. 1, maybe 2. That'll bring up 3rd and long for Michigan. Ball at the 46, 3rd and 8. And this is a potential spot where maybe you're in 4-down territory if you get enough. That'll take us to the end of the first quarter. Michigan 7, Ohio State 3. Will Johnson picked off Kyle McCord inside Buckeye territory, brought it back to the Ohio State 7, and then 4 straight gives to Blake Corum, and he's able to punch it in. Michigan 7, Ohio State 3 after 1. You're listening to WCBN Sports, live coverage of Michigan football, the game. Michigan, Ohio State. Neal, now 3rd and 8 for Michigan. What's the plan here?
That's a great question right there. I think for the Wolverines, we haven't seen too much of JJ. We've talked about how he's going to have to be big on downs like these, on 3rd and 8, that are relatively convertible, you know, but much more difficult. It's not an easy run play or an obvious running decision for the Wolverines. And so I think for Michigan, Roman Wilson has to be the target, but I think Colston Loveland possibly sitting in some zone coverage, trying to find some holes, might be the move. It's going to be a passing play in all likelihood. There could be a decision, by the way, considering that they're at the 46-yard line of Ohio State, where you play for the 4th down, and maybe you try to run it, get 2-3 yards, and make a manageable 4th down conversion. We'll see. Dan, what do you think on this?
Well, Michigan's been excellent on 3rd down all year, and I'd like to see some motion. Get Roman Wilson a little bit of a head start and use that speed to kind of create some separation. My guess is that Ohio State's going to sit in the zone. I don't think they trust their safeties to mark man-to-man Proctor and Styles specifically. So to your point, I think you can get Wilson in some motion, clear out some space for Loveland to kind of sit in underneath and make it an easy read and an easy throw for J.J. McCarthy.
And these safeties for Ohio State are big. I mean, talk about size at the safety position. Josh Proctor, 6'2", 205. Lathan Ransom not playing today, but 6'1", 210. And Sonny Styles, the sophomore, real young, but he's 6'4", 230. So there are some hard-hitting big safeties that can come up and be a real factor in the run game. That's the type they recruit at Ohio State.
You mentioned McCarthy's patience just a minute ago there, Neal. He's had time to throw today. The offensive line has protected J.J. well. That was an issue at Penn State. Specifically, Carson Barnhart was getting beat off that right edge early in that football game. A little bit of an issue at Maryland as well, but they've cleaned that up really nicely today, and that's a good Ohio State pass rush. McCarthy's had time to throw. I'd expect he'll have some time to throw here as well.
Dan, and you mentioned like the OSU sitting back here in coverage. I think that's very likely in playing zone, just because you mentioned it earlier in this broadcast, but Jim Knowles in Ohio State last year in this game played so much of cover 0 and cover 1. And what that does is it's such a high risk reward for the Ohio State defense, where if one DB makes a mistake in tackling, Michigan's gone. That's what we saw with Cornelius Johnson, twice in that game. So I think Ohio State, especially on more of a conservative 3rd and 8, a longer conversion here, likely sitting back and just trying to keep everything in front of them. If Michigan converts a 3-4 yard pickup, Ohio State's fine with that. They just want to force 4th down.
So as we get ready for the second quarter of play, about 40 seconds until we open up the second quarter. Again, Michigan on top, 7-3. How we got here. Will Johnson picked off Kyle McCord. He was staring down Marvin Harrison Jr. on a slant. Johnson read it the whole way and picked it off. Blake Corum punched it in on 4th and goal. And then for Ohio State, it was a big hook up to Marvin Harrison for 24 yards, and then a 15-yard hands to the face penalty on Michigan that put Ohio State in field goal range, but Michigan able to hold on 3rd down, and Ohio State puts it through for 3. So that's how we got here. Michigan now 3rd and 8 from the Buckeye 46-yard line. Got to get to the 38-yard marker. Edwards the tailback, 4 receivers. Wilson in motion. JJ drops back to pass, looking, throws over the middle, got A.J. Barner fighting for the sticks, and he's going to be a yard or 2 short. And here we talked about it. This is the big decision for Sharon Moore, and I think he's going to keep the offense on the field.
I like it, and it's nothing too special for Michigan right now. It feels like they haven't had to be very creative. And Ohio State, just as we mentioned, they were just sitting back and leaving everything in front of them. But it's just very interesting for Michigan right now. It's 7-3. The offense, we haven't seen anything too amazing so far. The only reason they scored that first touchdown was because of the pick. Can they get these big-time decisions right here on 4th down as we get a timeout?
Yeah, Sharon Moore needed a timeout there. Michigan might have had too many men in the huddle on that play. They didn't get the right personnel in. Trotting Corum out there along with Tyler Morris, I believe, as well.
Some confusion between Morris and Wilson.
Certainly it's a good timeout by Sharon Moore to get the right play call in here as well, right personnel, because it's a big play, right? Ohio State just got a field goal, got some momentum back in this football game. Obviously, Michigan trusts their defense to continue to play well. But if you can get this first down here, you're in scoring range to try and retake that touchdown or even make it a 2-score game.
And Sharon Moore presumably going to keep his offense on the field here. I don't think the timeout's going to change that decision. It won't.
Any chance it's anything but Corum up the middle?
I don't think so. Michigan has been pretty straightforward all season about their plans in this down and distance. Should note on that last play, Michael Hall had good pressure on JJ. He was able to deliver it in the face of Hall to Barner. Tight formation at the line for Michigan. JJ's in the shotgun. Corum switches over to the left side. JJ claps his hands. It's a handoff. Corum leaps over the top. Did he get it? Going to depend on the spot. I think he did, depending on where they marked the football. They're motioning to move the chains. First down, Michigan.
Corum leaps kind of become one of his signature moves. Obviously a little bit dangerous when he's not crossing that end goal line. So that ball comes out. It's a live ball, but excellent job by Corum, and the Michigan offensive line wins up front on another key 4th down.
Don't you just love that play call, though? OSU knew what was going to happen. I mean, everybody knows what's going to happen. Michigan still converts.
That's big boy football. Sharon Moore letting his offensive line do the work. Handoff. Edwards up the middle, and wow, he'll pick up 2, maybe 3 on the carry.
Yeah, hole open on, I believe, the the C gap. Very momentarily, immediately closed up as Donovan, he made the right read on the handoff, trying to take it up by the left guard, and immediately closed up.
Good shed there from Michael Hall Jr.
That gap closed quickly. I thought Edwards had 4 or 5 yards there, and big number 51 swallowed him up.
2nd and 8 now for the Wolverines. Edwards the tailback. To the left of McCarthy in the shotgun. JJ making an adjustment. Couple receivers to the right. Roman Wilson up top to the left. Barner in line at tight end. JJ claps his hands. It's a handoff. Edwards trying to bounce it to the outside. Picks up 1 more. And that'll bring up 3rd and 7 now for Michigan. So the Wolverines just went went for it on 4th and 1. They had 3rd and 8 before that, got it to within a yard, and we saw them convert. Similar situation now, 3rd and 6.
And Dan, this is a little interesting because this is where maybe you feel the loss of Jim Harbaugh not being on the sidelines today. 3rd and 6, they're near the field goal range. Do they try to just be conservative and get a field goal possibly, or do they go deep downfield?
Ball to 34 would be about a 50-yard field goal from here. JJ drops back to pass, steps up in the pocket, pressure coming. JJ eyes downfield, and he's going to tuck it and be stopped short. Colston Loveland was wide open, completely unmarked on the left side of the field, running up the left hash. JJ just couldn't see him, and he's got enough for the first down. JJ McCarthy on the scramble picks up 6. I thought they were going to mark him short.
Somewhat generous spot, potentially.
Barnhart had pressure coming off the edge, and McCarthy beats Proctor to the marker. And now we're going to head under the monitor and take another look at this one.
He looked to be short.
I thought he was short.
Our initial view up here.
We'll look to get a replay on the Jumbotron. Again, Loveland was wide open downfield for an easy walk-in touchdown. No one was near him. This is real close.
You know, this is another one, too, though, where do they have enough evidence to overturn what was called on the field? If you guys remember, and I think they might actually. JJ has the ball in his right hand.
That ball's a foot short.
Yeah.
And it might be a situation where Sharon Moore still goes for this, but I think that ball's a foot short. But at the same time, we also thought Corum was for sure in on that 3rd and goal run. So we've been wrong before.
Yeah, I think if this one isn't short, I need to get some glasses. He's pretty clearly a yard short of the marker there, and the officials should move him back. But I think if you're Michigan, you send out the big boy package again, and why not? It's been kind of a story that hasn't been talked about a whole lot, is the departure of Jake Moody, partly because Michigan hasn't needed to have a big kick in a big moment yet from James Turner, but a little bit into the wind going this direction would be about a 45, 46-yarder. I think Michigan will like their chances more if they can get an extra yard with Corum on the ground and keep the football as well.
And they're going to mark him short. 4th down. And it looks like the offense is going to stay on the field for Michigan. Career-long and season-long for James Turner is 50 yards. Again, would be about a 46-yard field goal from here. So Michigan, again, will go right back to that same formation.
A little surprised they don't have the fullback Bredesen in there, but
big boys in for Ohio State as well. JJ claps his hands. It's a fake. They go to Loveland. Loveland's got the first down inside the 25.
You know, and I was just going to say before that play, you have to wonder at what point when they line up with Corum on those 4th and shorts, do they pass it? And right there they did. They had Roman Wilson lined up at the end of the line, and that one ended up going to Loveland. I love the play call. Great job changing tendencies. And
we saw Michigan do that last year against the Buckeyes. It resulted in a big pickup for, I believe it was Loveland on a pass from Mullings. 1st and 10 now for Michigan. Wolverines driving. JJ claps his hands. It's a handoff. Edwards, free runner. That was JTT, came off the edge and was picked up late, but almost a big hit on Edwards in the backfield. So we get another look at this. Yeah, I believe that was Zinter that came over to redirect JT Tuimoloau.
And Kelin, you almost feel like with the 2 4th downs that they've converted here that this has to be a touchdown drive. You don't want to come out of here with a field goal.
No gain on the handoff to Edwards, 2nd and 10. Corum the lone back. It's a fake. JJ going to look downfield, going end zone for Wilson, and that's out of bounds, incomplete. So now a 3rd and 10 for Michigan. 2 4th down conversions, you just said it, Neal, would really sting to only come away with 3.
Yeah, and that's another situation where I think JJ eyes down one receiver and decides to end up throwing it there when he's not open. Roman had a stop and go right there, and Igbenogson was on it all day.
Nothing really open there downfield, though, for McCarthy. Michigan's got to do a better job of using some early motion, I think, to help create separation as the receivers break into their routes.
Now a big chance for the Buckeyes to get a stop here on third down. 10:29 to go in the second quarter. JJ drops back to pass. Pressure coming, looking, and he's got his man. Touchdown, Michigan! Who else? Roman Wilson. JJ McCarthy fit that in a tight window.
The ball came out at the end. It looks like Wilson crossed before that occurred.
That is one of the best throws I think J.J. McCarthy's made in his whole career. 3 Ohio State defenders were on Roman Wilson, and I was thinking when he threw that there that it was surely going to be deflected and down for an incomplete pass.
And now they're going to take another look at this. You said it, Dan. That ball came out just at the very end. And so they're going to go under the hood here. Now, Roman Wilson did catch it and run in from about 4 yards out. So you have those steps to look at here as we get our second peek at it.
May also be checking if he was down early potentially.
I mean, it looks like he lands in the end zone, though. I think he's got to be down in the end zone.
Well, I think they're saying that Burke had his hands on the football. Burke ripped that away late.
Just depends on where he ripped it away.
It might be that Wilson was over the – because once he's over the line, it's a touchdown.
And I don't – it looked like – great job by Burke, by the way, just to make this a competition and a call. But I think Burke really only reaches in and gets it out after Roman Wilson already passes the goal.
Wilson has a clear catch, and then Burke's fighting at it. I think this is going to stay a touchdown.
A lot of big-time replay calls early in this football game.
And our officiating crew led today by Ron Snodgrass. Gonna continue to look at this one. Wilson caught it at about the 4, took 2 steps, and then had it ripped away by Burke as he was crossing into the end zone. But Wilson clearly had the catch before. Burke got his hands in after Wilson had it.
So it's either a touchdown or a touchback?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Because if they're going to say the other side of this would be an interception. Here we get the call. And that's going to stand for a Michigan touchdown. J.J. McCarthy, Neal, you said it, with one of the best throws of his career. Fit it in a tight window. And Wilson holds on through the contact for 6. Big-time stuff from J.J. McCarthy. Which one of these quarterbacks was going to make 1 or 2 big plays? And that's a huge one from J.J. there on a 3rd and long. 2 fourth-down conversions. You come away with 6. Here's James Turner for the PAT. Doman to hold. And it's through. Wolverines, they're rolling early. 14-3, Michigan over the Buckeyes. An perfectly executed drive there from J.J. McCarthy. Some big conversions on 3rd down, big conversions on 4th down, and Michigan marches all the way down the field to punch it in for 6.
It was a key battle for me in prep leading up to this game. Was Michigan 4th on offense, 3rd down conversions in the country. The Ohio State defense 2nd in that battle. Michigan's won a lot of they won 3rd downs on that drive, and they won the 4th downs as well. Leads to 7 points, and talk about that difference earlier where Ohio State got down in scoring area, only was able to put up 3. Michigan's been in the scoring area twice, has put up 7 both times, and that's how we get this 11-point differential. And it's starting to feel like that boa constrictor analogy. Michigan's starting to tighten their grip on this football game a little bit here.
And this is a huge drive, Neal, now for Kyle McCord and the Buckeyes. I mean, Michigan has all the momentum in the world right now. The home crowd is buzzing. Ohio State needs to come through and score a touchdown almost, it feels like. Would you agree?
I definitely would. I think that McCord and Ohio State, their response on their last offensive drive wasn't what you would have wanted. And I think Michigan came right back, answered with yet another touchdown, but this one was different from the first. With this being a 14-play, 75-yard drive, Michigan went all the way down the field. Also 7 minutes taken off the clock there, Kelin. That was very impressive. And so if I'm Ohio State, I mean, you don't even want just a couple first downs just to feel better. They need points from this drive because the Michigan offense looked like it was clearly clicking right there. The defense is held strong. The last thing Ohio State wants to do right here is to punt the ball away down 2 possessions already in the middle of the second quarter.
A 14-play, 75-yard, 6-minute, 51-second drive orchestrated by J.J. McCarthy, capped off by a 22-yard dime to Roman Wilson for 6. Again, there were 2 or 3 Buckeyes right there. Wilson had a step on them, and J.J. didn't float it over the top. He put it right in between 2 Ohio State defenders. Neither of them got their head around to swat at the football, and Michigan comes away with 6 points there. Unbelievable pitch and catch from 9-1, and we've seen that result in 6 points quite a few times this year.
11 times to be exact. Roman Wilson getting number 11 on the season. Just spectacular. And I mean, I tell you what, JJ, he has some throwing decisions that might not be the best at times, but part of the reason that he has that is because he has one of the best arms in the country, and he knows he can make those throws.
Tommy Doman to boot it away for the 3rd time today. Xavier Johnson back deep to receive. He's let both so far go for touchbacks, and he will receive this one at the goal line and run it out. Johnson looking for space, and he's going to be knocked down. Good return at about the 27-yard line. So the 27 is where Kyle McCord will take over. McCord led his squad down for 3 points on the last possession. Prior to that, it was an interception to Will Johnson.
Almost threw a pick last drive as well to Michael Barrett in the red zone. We'll see where his head is at here. I'd like, if I'm Ohio State, I think a quick screen, let McCord see a completion go and build some confidence.
Chip Trainum now the tailback for Ohio State. His first action of the day. Bunch set to the left, lone receiver to the right. And it's a handoff to Trainum. Trainum looking for space, breaks a tackle. Chip Trainum with a good carry there, picks up 8 or 9. I believe that was Jimmy Rolder that went in to lay the hit, and Trainum just ran right through it.
Yeah, Rolder took a little bit of a bad angle as he was trying to come up the middle at first and then unable to make the shoestring tackle right there. Expect a little bit more of Chip Trainum, a tough running back.
He was thrust into the game against Michigan at running back last year due to injuries and has stuck, similar to Khalil Mullings, former linebacker at Arizona State that has shifted over to running back. McCord barking out orders. Trainum shifts to the right side. 2 receivers to the left, 2 to the right. Stover in line. Play action. McCord downfield finds Stover. Cade Stover brought down by Rolder, who was in coverage, and there's a big connection to the tight end.
Yeah, it was zone coverage. Zone coverage right there by the Wolverines. Ohio State did exactly what I mentioned before this game, where they set up, they had their offense set, and then they bring a man in motion, find out what the defense is doing. Michigan was playing zone. McCord checked the play at the line to make that decision right there. Great job by the Buckeyes.
Rolder has not seen a ton of action this season as Mike Barrett checks on now for Michigan. They're going to bring off Jimmy Rolder. Barrett back in the game at linebacker. Wondering if there was an injury or something there. McCord dropping back to pass. Pressure coming, and he finds Igbuka. Makes a move and is brought down at the 26. So quick plays from Ohio State. Stover on the 32-yard pickup, then Igbuka for about 5. Gain of 6. That'll bring up 2nd and 4 now for the Buckeyes. Ball at the Michigan 26.
Dan, it feels like the momentum's shifting a little bit here. Buckeyes moving the ball pretty well.
McCord finding some confidence. Harrison on the near side matched up with Will Johnson. It's a play action pass. McCord looking, and he's got Henderson. Henderson fighting through tacklers, enough for the first down, brought down by Mikey Sainristil.
And those last 2 plays are a perfect example of getting your playmakers in space. Get Igbuka on a crossing route, and then get Henderson a little sit-down route in front of the linebackers. Let him try and maneuver around the bigger fellas in the middle. And Ohio State's putting a drive together now, and Michigan's done an excellent job in the red zone defensively this year. They haven't been there a lot. This would be a big stop for the Wolverines.
May Junior Colson missed there, did Henderson. First down and 10 from the Wolverine 19. It's an end around. Xavier Johnson, he's a great playmaker. Picks up about 4, penalty flag out. Mason Graham signaling for a hold. And that's the first misdirection we've seen from the Buckeyes today. Finding Xavier Johnson, who's so good with the ball in his hands. They got it to him on a screen earlier. And it'll be a hold on Michigan. So that'll be half the distance to the goal and be a automatic first down now.
A couple penalties now by this Wolverines defense, aiding a Buckeyes offense that has struggled on their own. Uncharacteristic of a team that does not commit a lot of penalties either, do the Wolverines.
2 penalties leading to a potential Ohio State points here now. Ball in the Michigan 7, first down, McCord, handoff, Trainum, looking for space, and that's a good run down to the 3.
What an interesting call. I'm sorry to stay on that topic, but a holding call on Mason Graham on an end around is, I mean, I'm not even sure I've ever seen that.
He brought down the lineman with him, I think is what they were trying to signal. Graham thought he was the one that was held.
Yeah.
Here comes Ohio State. Ball at the Michigan 3, second and goal. It's a bootleg, Agbuka, touchdown Buckeyes. Agbuka on the crosser, and McCord hit him in stride. Ohio State answers right back, 14-9, pending the extra point, 10.
They got Agbuka in motion. Just too much speed and too hard for the Michigan corners to run around all those bodies. Excellent play called by Ohio State, and what a response that was. Build some tension back into this crowd and back into this football game.
Here's fielding on for the PAT. It is through. 14-10, Kyle McCord answers another costly Michigan penalty on the 3-yard score from Agbuka. 7 plays, 73 yards, only took 3 minutes, 50 seconds.
Beautiful play design. I mean, just as Dan mentioned, Michigan in man coverage right there. It was a little interesting. Ohio State at the 3 or 4 yard line, you know, they're in the shotgun set with a twin set. Michigan, I'm not sure they've seen that too much. You know, where more often than not in the Big Ten, usually you see offenses sitting with the quarterback under center or possibly in the pistol. Ohio State instead decides to go in the shotgun. They saw Michigan was in man, and you know, that's just hard for Jaden McBurrows, who was the DB keeping track of Agbuka, to run all the way across the field on man coverage and try to keep up with him in the flat.
So Ohio State answers right back. 14-10 is your score. 6:27 to go in the half. Michigan will receive the football to start the second half of play. Again, you're tuned in to WCBN Sports live coverage of Michigan football. Thank you for tuning in to our YouTube stream or on FM, WCBN 88.3 FM Ann Arbor. Happy to have you with us for today's coverage. My name's Kelin Flynn. Alongside me, Neal Sinha and Daniel Olson. Dan will be taking over play-by-play duties for quarter number 3, and Neal will come out of the bullpen to take us to the finish line as our closer in the 4th.
But what a response, though. What a response by Ohio State. You know, right as we were talking about it, of how they needed not just, you know, to convert on a few first downs there, but they needed points out of that drive. Well, they went out and did everything that they wanted to, going full 73 yards, getting the touchdown. Well done by McCord. He made the passes that he needed to. And I thought, you know, as Dan mentioned, Ohio State got their skill position guys in space on that drive.
Well, and the big play on the drive was a tight end seam to Cade Stover. They were picking on Jimmy Rolder, Michigan's young linebacker, a couple times. He missed a tackle on a Trainum run to the right, picked up 9. They went right back at him with Stover over the middle, where the safeties cleared out for extra help on Marvin Harrison Jr. So using Harrison Jr. as a decoy, but then also getting all of these other really skilled 4-star, 5-star guys that Ohio State has out in space. And Kyle McCord made some excellent throws on that drive. That throw to Stover was right on his helmet. He looked settled down. He looked in rhythm. And I think it helps when you can build off of a running game like that first play, 9 yards to train him. I think works wonders for a quarterback.
And to your point, I think the Buckeyes are so talented that not everything has to go through Marvin Harrison Jr. And that's what Kyle McCord needs to understand, is that not every pass needs to be for Marvin Harrison Jr. Not every play needs to be designed for number 18 either. They can stick with Ibuka. They can stick with Julian Fleming, the number 1 ranked receiver coming out of high school 4 years ago. And that'll eventually free up Marvin Harrison. Kyle McCord just needs to stay patient in the pocket and make the right decisions and hit the right checkdowns.
So here comes Ohio State, fielding on to boot it away for the Buckeyes. Kick is away and will be a touchback. Morgan and Jake Thaw will let it bounce.
Looks like we'll get another media timeout. But, Dan, how important is this drive for Michigan? You know, I mentioned how I thought that this game might follow a similar script to the 2021 game. Already we're kind of on the same path here, 14-10. I mean, how important is it for Michigan to try to just continue to stay ahead of Ohio State and be in a good spot for the rest of this game?
Well, Michigan gets the ball to start the second half. I think that's a key point here, as with 6.5 minutes left in this first half, it'd be nice to take 4 or 5 minutes off the clock, go put some more points on the scoreboard if you're the Wolverines, and then try and redo it again when you get the ball back in the second half to create even more separation on the scoreboard. But I think, again, like Ohio State, it's been a game of momentum, right? And we've expected a defensive battle, possessions being very critical to maximize. And Ohio State here has a chance to regain some momentum here if they can get Michigan off the field. Michigan struggled to get that ball into the end zone. It was 14 plays and a lot of hard work, a couple 4th down conversions, a couple big 3rd down conversions as well. So for Michigan, try and make it a little bit easier on yourselves. And for Ohio State, keep playing the way you're playing, because Michigan's just executing on the finer margins here. But Ohio State's put themselves in a good position to get a stop
and
here.
Outside of that one throw from McCord that was picked off, he's been okay, but more importantly, that's the only thing that's killed Ohio State. Outside of that, the defense has been good enough. That's been Michigan's only solid drive all game. But we talked about that in the pregame and in the booth before we got going here. Whoever loses the turnover battle is going to be in a real tough position to win, because both of these teams are so good. There's such a razor-thin margin for error that if you throw a pick deep in your own territory, that could be the difference. Looking back on the rest of the game, that could be it. That you never know in a game like this with two teams that are so good, so well matched up against each other.
Michigan's won their respective turnover battle this season, plus 1.1 margin, average that out. And Ohio State's net even, 11 turnovers, 11 takeaways. So it's gone in Michigan's way, and so far that's the edge right now. That's the 4-point difference in this football game.
Yeah, and, I think, the Ohio State defense has been solid in the sense of, obviously that one touchdown came because of the pick that, we're obviously talking about right now. But it needs to be a little bit better still. This is an Ohio State team that we mentioned at the top of the broadcast has not given up more than 17 points. Well, they've already given up 14 in this game. And so they're going to need to tighten up, especially for the rest of this half. They cannot be allowing another touchdown for sure to Michigan, at most another field goal to go into the half feeling good about themselves.
6:27 to go in the half. McCarthy and company back out on the field, taking over at the 25. JJ in the shotgun, Corum to the right. Trips to the left, or the right of the formation. Edwards is in the slot. They'll bring him across the formation and around in a motion. Edwards catches it, looking for space. Dono picks up 5, maybe 6 on the little halfback screen.
Well done by Donovan Edwards just to even get those 5 or 6 yards. I mean, Ohio State had that relatively covered with number 7 Jordan Hancock in coverage right there, and Donovan Edwards just able to hit him with a slight hesitation move just to free up those 5 yards.
Here comes Michigan now. 2 receivers to the right. Roman Wilson to the lone up top. Play action, JJ. Pressure coming. Flushed out of the pocket. Throwing downfield, it is. Waiting on the signal. Going to be caught. Cornelius Johnson along the sideline. Got the feet down. Huge pitch and catch there. Pickup of 20 plus. We'll see where they officially mark it.
That is an unbelievable play by J.J. McCarthy right there. 3 rushers in the face with JTT, Michael Hall Jr., and Jack Sawyer.
Ball at the 49 now. Handoff to Corum up the middle. Pick up 2, maybe 3. 19-yard gain on the hookup with Cornelius Johnson. And that is special stuff from number 9, rolling out of the pocket and keeping the eyes downfield. Excellent throw along the sideline.
And it looks like Michigan went quickly there to avoid any sense of a replay, although I do believe the replay was confirmed. But J.J. McCarthy's made some plays today. He's used his legs. We were a little curious about how that leg has felt this week in practice, and he looks healthy today.
JJ claps his hands, handoff, Corum up the middle. Pickup of maybe 3. Got 2 there, bring up 3rd and 5. So another 3rd down for Michigan, just into Ohio State territory. Neal, we saw Michigan go for this when they got it down to 1 yard earlier, pretty much this exact same spot. You've got to imagine that for Sharon Moore, it's the same decision making there.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, with a 4-point lead right here, Michigan's feeling confident. But obviously, you want to try to get it a little bit shorter of a 3rd down conversion here than they had in the last drive.
3rd and 5 from the Ohio State 46. JJ in the shotgun. They bring Wilson across the formation. Stepping up in the pocket, going to be hit, going to go down. 3 Buckeyes combined for the sack there. Now you got to punt it away. Michael Hall Jr. was in there. Jack Sawyer was in there, and then Steele Chambers came in at the very end to finish him off. And that's a 5-yard loss. Jack Sawyer was the one that'll get credited for the sack. Tommy Doman now has to boot it away to Egbuka. That's a huge stop from the Buckeyes. Doman looking to pin Egbuka deep. Good punt. Egbuka rolling back. Doman with another beauty inside the 2. How about it from Tommy Doman?
Wow.
Back-to-back weeks, he has absolutely pinned opponents inside their own 2.
I'm telling you, and I'm not even, I'm not a punter. I don't understand a lot of the mechanics of how to get the spin on the ball like that. But Tommy Doman has just been absolutely on one the last 2 or 3 weeks of this season. Did the same thing against Maryland last week. Does it again right here. That is so big to pin Ohio State to the 2-yard line. I mean, wow.
That's big-time stuff from your punter. Dan, go ahead.
Just when you thought Ohio State started to regain some momentum here, obviously the big touchdown drive and then the sack of J.J. McCarthy where they were able to beat that Michigan offensive line, specifically Zach Zinter at that right guard position. Michigan special teams making a play, Doman pinning him at the 2, and Ohio State's going to be hearing it from this crowd when that offense gets out there again. And this is another chance for Michigan. Obviously, 3:23 left in this game. You can hold Ohio State to, not get a first down here, make a punt out of their own end zone, and then get another chance on offense leading into the half. Again, the margins are so thin and momentum can flip so quickly. Absolutely massive punt and result there from Tommy Doman.
14-10 our score. Michigan on top. It was a Blake Corum 1-yard run from the goal line and then a 22-yard laser to Roman Wilson in between a couple of Buckeye defenders. Wilson just hung on long enough to get across the goal line. For Ohio State, it was a bootleg, Egbuka on a crosser. Came right across and easy 3-yard touchdown score for Ohio State. That's where we've been. Where we are now is at the 2-yard line of the Buckeyes. That's where Ohio State will take over after a Tommy Doman beauty of a punt.
And, I think this game has just been so even, to your point, Kelin. I mean, Ohio State 129 total yards of offense, Michigan 119. The only real difference in terms of the 4 points is Michigan scored the touchdown after getting the pick off of Kelin McCord, whereas the Buckeyes on their, I believe, 3rd or 4th drive of this game kicked that field goal instead of a touchdown. And so it's the only difference. I mean, it's very fine margins right now. Ohio State, you have 3:23 left. If they can somehow march down the field and get some points before the half, I think they're feeling absolutely fantastic going into halftime, even if it's just a field goal and they're down a point. Because I don't think we've seen Ohio State's best. I don't think we've seen Michigan's best either. And, conversely for Michigan, if they can get a quick stop here and then control the possession for the last drive of this half and then get the ball back first in the second half, cannot tell you how big that will be to possibly open this thing up.
And we've seen each of these last 2 years, the game has been very close through the first half, and it was the second half where Michigan really opened it up last year in the 4th quarter the year before that. Huge possession here for Ohio State. This can swing momentum either way. A 98-yard score would be a huge blow to Michigan, and on the flip side, Michigan has a chance to potentially create some points on the defensive side of the football. Here we go. McCord in the shotgun. Henderson to his right. Harrison lined up all alone on the outside. It's a handoff. Henderson. And he's got one there.
Have to wonder how much Ryan Day trusts Kyle McCord and his decision-making right here. Obviously, still one more down until you get to a potentially 3rd and somewhat long. I think this next play call will let us know how much faith he has in Kyle McCord.
Henderson picked up 2 there, so it's 2nd and 8, ball on the 4. Chip Trainum now in at tailback. McCord going to go under center. Have not seen that a lot today. It's a handoff to Trainum. Trainum got back to the line of scrimmage. No more.
And at what point does Ohio State start to try to target Marvin Harrison Jr.? He's been wide alone with Will Johnson fronting him at the top or the bottom of the field on almost every play here.
Chris Jenkins made the stop there, and notably, Travion Henderson limped off the field on that last play. So Trainum still in at tailback. Will Johnson on Harrison on the near side. 3rd and 7 from the 5. It's a bootleg for McCord. McCord rolling out, looking for Fleming. And waiting on the signal.
Official spotting it.
And that's going to be a completion.
Wow. The football is just on the ground right now, and it's not in the hands of the wide receiver.
We'll get a replay here. It was a bootleg to the right for McCord. Just kind of floated it up for Fleming. Tough to see from that angle. The ball came out at the end there. We'll get another replay here. Ohio State looking to go quick. And that looks like a catch for Fleming.
It does. Obviously, the ball coming out at that. Good job by Josh Wallace to just try and even rip it out, but they're going to review it, but I think that's a catch all the way through.
That's great control there from Julian Fleming to haul that in. One of a million 5-stars in this Ohio State receiving core. You look at, oddly enough, Harrison wasn't a 5-star, but Fleming, Buka, Brandon Innes, a freshman. They've got so many of these guys.
Carnell Tate,
exactly. So we'll keep an eye on Travion Henderson as well, who again limped off the field there on the last carry that he took. Trainum was in for the last 2. Potentially a big 3rd down pickup there for the Buckeyes, as we believe this one will stand. If it does, it'll be ball on the 14, 1st and 10, with 1:34 to go.
Some interesting clock management now for Ryan Day if the 1st down is upheld. Only 1 timeout left, but 1:34. How much do you try and force getting 3 or even 7 points, but also take that risk of turning the ball back over to Michigan or giving even them some time to come back with their 2 timeouts and adding some more points to their lead.
Yeah, it is such a big challenge, just because they're in the weird spot of you don't want to punt this away because Michigan would get the ball at midfield possibly and very much have an opportunity to go down and score. And so I think, we've seen Ohio State somewhat early on in this season with Kyle McCord making decisions before halftimes like these where they would just take knees actually or just run the ball out. They did against Notre Dame.
And we get the ruling from Rod Snodgrass that it is a completed catch. That's what we thought it would be. So Ohio State takes over 1st and 10 at the 14. Minute 34 to go. Remember, the clock does stop on first downs briefly for the chains to get reset.
To the point I was just making, though, McCord obviously a lot more experience. We'll see. Do they open it up?
Stover split all the way out wide. He's got Sainer still on him. Sainer still made that big play in the back of the end zone last year against Stover. These Ohio State receivers talking amongst themselves, getting set. McCord receives the snap. Pressure coming up the middle. Steps up, looking downfield for Marvin Harrison, and he's got it. Flag thrown, doesn't matter. Harrison hauled it in near the 40 of Michigan. And that's the best player in the country doing his thing there. Will Johnson just tried to tackle him late, and Harrison caught it regardless.
Yeah, that was the case of Will Johnson just trying to get the flag rather than give up all those yards. Oh, my goodness. And Marvin Harrison caught that with one hand. Are you kidding me?
There's a reason this guy's going to go top 5 in the NFL draft. Maybe even as high as 3 after those 2 quarterbacks come April.
I mean, Will Johnson took him down and took his left hand down with him. And Marvin Harrison just had to reach out the right paw and bring it in. Great pass by McCord as well.
He is a Jamar Chase, Calvin Johnson type prospect in the eyes of NFL GMs and scouts. I mean, we're talking that level of generational receiver talent. Ball at the Michigan 42. Minute 11 to go. 71 seconds. McCord drops back to pass. Pressure coming off the edge in his face. And it was thrown behind Trainum. Junior Colson was about a step away from picking that one off and taking it the other way.
Well, that's the interesting part of that 2-play sequence from Kyle McCord. Previous play steps up, beautiful ball to Marvin Harrison Jr., and then an easy little out route there to Trainum that's high and wide, 2 feet behind him, and somewhat dangerous pass that could have been deflected and intercepted by Michigan. Still yet to find a little bit of consistency here from McCord.
This home crowd's getting loud. I believe Henderson's back in the game. Xavier Johnson in the backfield as well. Michigan bringing pressure. They find Henderson. Big hit from Mike Sainristil. He is absolutely drilled by Mikey Sainristil. 1-yard pickup on the pass into the flat on the left side. Clock still ticking. 50 seconds and running. Henderson in the backfield. McCord tried to get everyone set. McCord dropping back to pass, looking, got Stover, going to be short of the sticks. That'll bring up 4th down now. Clock continues to run. 35 seconds and counting, 4th and 2. Now here's a decision for Ryan Day. Inside of 30 seconds. You've got to go quick here. Ohio State just letting this clock continue to run. 19 seconds, 18 seconds.
Well, and keep in mind, Jaden Fielding's career long is a 47. This would be a 51-yard field goal. Ryan Day's content on taking it, it looks like.
They're just going to let it run down and kick the field goal here. So Day will call timeout with 3 seconds left. And ball at the 34. That's where Fielding is going to look to make this a 1-point game.
Dan, I don't know about you. I don't agree with that decision. Your offense is moving the ball very well here. Why not just try to get a quick – I mean, they had quite a bit of time to come up with something there on the 4th down. I'm not sure that that's the decision you want to make right there when Fielding's career long is a 47. I mean, we'll see. Ohio State at best will be losing this half by a point.
Yeah, we talked about Ryan Day and his aggressiveness in these games. That's another moment that if the Buckeyes lose this football game, I think people will look at it. I will say Fielding was good. He was money from 52 on going this way in warm-ups. splitting them with ease. So definitely has the leg for it. It's just about whether he can execute in the moment.
Jaden Fielding, a sophomore, 15 of 17 on the season, 1 for 1 today. 47-yard career long. Ball marked at the 42. And Michigan's going to ice him. That one was good. Had plenty of clearance as well.
That was right down the gut, too.
That's where, as a long snapper, I tell you what, you always make sure you take that snap, even if you hear the timeout being called, just to give your kicker a nice little practice shot for Fielding right there. He's made one now. He knows exactly what it looks like. This should be an easier kick. I like the timeout, though, by Sharon Moore.
So Sharon Moore with a good timeout there. You've got 2 in your back pocket. They don't come with you to the second half. Uses one there to ice Fielding.
Any chance he goes for the double ice? Burn the last one.
Well, right now, Sharon Moore is only worried about hyping up the crowd. He is throwing his hands in there trying to get this place loud.
Sharon Moore, 3-0 as a head coach this season for Michigan. Fielding sets up. Here we go. Snap good, hold good, kick is up, and it is pure. No, he missed it. He missed it. The excellent timeout from Sharon Moore, and Fielding pulled it. No good on the kick, and Ohio State heads in down 4 at the break. Sharon Moore calls timeout to ice Fielding, and it pays off in a big way.
And Ryan Day, hindsight's 20/20, but if you're going to come away with 0 points with 40 seconds or so left on the clock, why not go for it on 4th and 2? Got almost 200 yards in that first half on this Michigan defense. That's going to be a call that is certainly going to be criticized at halftime shows, after the game, whatever it might be, if the Buckeyes don't pull this game out.
And this officiating crew and game day staff and local police doing a good job making sure there is plenty of space between these two teams heading into the locker room, obviously looking to avoid any kind of brouhaha at the half. And
I tell you, the Ryan Day decision, while he was waiting for that clock to go down, Travion Henderson was visibly upset on the field. Buckeyes are out here averaging 6.2 yards per play. 4th and 2, you've got momentum. Just had a touchdown after Michigan took an 11-point lead, and Henderson's on the field stomping his foot, slapping his helmet. It's in a game that's become where coaches are a lot more aggressive. Ryan Day has gone somewhat of the opposite direction here.
I agree, and I think, you know, there's the different types of coaches, right? The coaching archetypes out there. One being the players coach, the so-called players coach that makes a lot of the decisions and following how the players' emotions are going. John Harbaugh is a great example of that in the NFL. Ryan Day, it seems a lot of times the complete opposite. We saw this last year. I mentioned last year how Ohio State had a 4th and 6, 4th and 7-ish against Michigan in Michigan territory. And C.J. Stroud threw his hands up in the air when Ryan Day brought out the punting crew. They did the exact same thing right there. And I get it. You know, I understand that Fielding has the leg, and you just had a great drive and you just want points out of it. But I think with the way that the Ohio State offense was humming right there, you have to feel somewhat confident in the offense to just get 2 or 3 yards and convert on the first down.
And breaking news as of about 35 minutes ago, Jonathan Smith, the head football coach at Oregon State, has just been named the new head football coach at Michigan State University. So that head coaching search is over. A lot of speculation about if Urban Meyer, who's here at the Big House today as a part of the Fox Big Noon kickoff crew, would be taking that job, and he will not. All the speculation can be laid to rest. It is going to be Jonathan Smith at Oregon State, and he led that program to a couple of really good seasons these past 2 years.
Completely opposite hire of the one that they just had, I'll tell you that. Jonathan Smith, very different person in comparison to Mel Tucker, a little bit of a quieter coach. He's not going to be about a lot of the brouhaha around and coming up with a lot of storylines, but he's a good coach. I mean, he did a great job at Oregon State. And the last thing I'll mention on this too, though, it's just a series of tough storylines for the Beavers right now with what's gone on with the Pac-12. They now lose their head coach, and you have to think that the conference realignment was a big reason why Jonathan Smith made the move from a team that's likely going to the Mountain West to the big old new 18-team Big Ten.
Certainly a very talented coach, rebuilt that Oregon State program quite nicely, and I think he'll do an excellent job at Michigan State. They've got some weeds that need to be cleared up there in East Lansing for sure. So he'll need some time, but I think that's a good hire if you're the Spartans and part of the Spartan faithful. I think you should feel pretty good about bringing him into that program.
Well, any closing thoughts on the first half of play? Michigan on top 14-10. Miscues for Ohio State, the big storyline there. Missed field goal and arguably clock mismanagement from Ryan Day at the end of the half. About 40 seconds with a 4th and 2. Day opts to just let the clock tick down and settle for field goal. Sharon Moore calls a timeout to ice the kicker, and that results in a miss from Fielding, maintaining a 4-point Michigan lead. And then outside of that, it was the interception inside the red zone for Ohio State. Kyle McCord was picked off by Will Johnson. Johnson taken down at the 7, and that led to 7 points for Michigan.
You know, and it could be just me thinking this, but I don't think this Michigan team has been pressured too much so far this game. I mean, it's felt like everything's gone kind of according to plan. They haven't had to make any unnecessary deep downfield passes or change up the game plan tremendously. And they have a 4-point lead at half, and they're going to get the ball back first in the second half. I mean, it's gone exactly to plan for what Sharon Moore and the coaching staff has wanted. I just do wonder at some point it feels like at some point Michigan, whether that's J.J. McCarthy in the offense, they're going to have to come up with some sort of big play later on in this game to either put this one on ice or eventually win it in the closing seconds.
I mean, this has been one heck of a football game so far. Number 2 coming into town, number 3 team in the country. You can see the talent on both sides. You can see Michigan kind of playing better than the sum of their parts, so to speak, and Ohio State. Marvin Harrison Jr. has made some excellent plays. They've gotten Ibuka going. Kyle McCord has been kind of what you might have expected from Kyle McCord today. Couple shaky throws. Michigan made him pay on one of them. And the Buckeyes just haven't executed in certain areas. I mean, there's a reasonable case to be made that Ohio State played the better first half here. Just too many errors that Michigan was able to capitalize on. And that was not Michigan's best half, but they did enough to maximize that half, and that's the difference right now, and that's why Michigan should feel good going into the third quarter.
And I think you make a really good point there, Dan. Maximizing that half. Michigan did the most, it felt like, with what they had in that half.
Yeah.
They scored 7 points off the turnover, which was huge, and they scored 7 points on the drive where they picked up 2 big 4th down conversions. That is huge to come away with touchdowns on both of those drives. Ohio State, on the flip side, one of the longer drives that they got a big penalty, had a big completion to Marvin Harrison, forced to settle for 3. Another drive, they have a big hook up downfield to the tight end. They're not able to come away with the full 7 points. They actually end up coming away with 0 on the missed field goal.
And over the course of a season, that stuff will average out, right? Michigan maximized this half here, but if they played like this consistently throughout the season, the chances of them, having 14 points or being up in this game would probably be a little bit different, but it doesn't matter. This is the one game that they're here to play, and this game is for all the marbles in the Big Ten, and Michigan's done an excellent job. Sharon Moore's called an excellent game as a head coach. I don't think the offense has run quite as well as he might have hoped. I think that running game needs to get going a little bit more if the Wolverines want to kind of have some more control of this football game, but they've done an excellent job of taking advantage of Ohio State's mistakes.
Yeah, in that first half, Michigan was outgained by Ohio State, 193-119. Ohio State almost doubled up Michigan in the air and then rushed for 3 more yards on the ground. We have not seen that happen against Michigan this year. A team outrushed Michigan in the first half. Ohio State, more first downs, more 3rd down conversions, but the key stat there, Michigan 3 for 3 on 4th down, and that's why they've come away with 14 points. Neal, any closing thoughts before we leave you all with the Michigan marching band as we get ready for the second half of action?
No, I mean, I was just going to say, I think you kind of foreshadowed it a little bit right there. Michigan, 1.9 yards per carry right now on the ground. That's not going to cut it. And so in the second half, I mean, the only reason right now it's working is because of that McCord interception. If they don't have that, Michigan's for certain losing this half. And so they're not going to be able to win this game continuing to average 1.9 per carry. That's got to change in the second half unless JJ starts opening it up.
And I know it's a close battle in the rushing yard statistic, but the last 21 times this game has been played, who's ever won the game on the ground in terms of rushing yards has won the football game. Ohio State currently at 37, Michigan at 34. Whoever can get some more yards on the ground in the second half is likely going to take control of this football game and get a statement win here today.
And I would definitely look for Michigan in that second half to really pound the rock and try to establish that running game. It's been their MO all season, and why would you change that? If anything, you should expect it even more because of who's the head coach. Sharon Moore, the leader of that offensive line group, that back-to-back Joe Moore award-winning group. We saw against Penn State that second half, Michigan literally did not pass the ball a single time. It was handoff, 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 handoff until the clock struck 0. And I think that's what you should expect from Michigan in this second half. Really try to be physical and salt away this game on the ground. It's been their game plan all year to wear teams down. The boa constrictor has been used as an analogy. I mean, if you're looking for a college football analogy, think of those early 2010s Alabama teams that just punched you in the mouth on defense and ran the ball down your throat with big physical backs like Trent Richardson, Derrick Henry, Mark Ingram. Maybe not quite the same level of overall talent on the Michigan side, but similar philosophies. With that, we will leave you with the sounds of the Michigan marching band. Right now, they've got the Game of Thrones theme playing right now. So we'll be back in about 8 minutes or so for second half coverage. Don't go anywhere. You're tuned into WCBN Sports, the official student voice of Michigan Athletics. Live coverage of the game, Michigan, Ohio State, live on YouTube and on 88.3 FM Ann Arbor.
You are listening to WCBN FM Ann Arbor 88.3, or you're listening to us on YouTube at WCBN Sports. We're here for the game in Ann Arbor, and man, do we have a good one. Michigan 14, Ohio State 10. My name's Daniel Olson. Joining me, Neal Sinha, Kelin Flynn. 3 touchdowns in that first half in this game. 1 for Blake Corum, 1 for Roman Wilson, and then Emeka Ibuka got the Buckeyes into the end zone. Tack on a fielding field goal for Ohio State, and that's how we add up to 14-10. Neal, as we get into the second half, Michigan starts with the football. What are your kind of expectations? What do you think Sharon Moore was dialing up for him at halftime?
I mean, I think Michigan can continue with the same game plan that they've had so far this game, in the sense that it's worked. I mean, Michigan has this 4-point lead, obviously, and I don't think they need to change anything up until they get hit by something with Ohio State, in the sense of they had that great 75-yard drive that resulted in that touchdown, their second touchdown of the day. And Michigan was doing it on very small plays. That you're not seeing a lot of big chunk plays by the Wolverines, and that's kind of been the case for a lot of this season. I think they continue to try to get the rushing game going, and if they need to, they'll eventually open it up to JJ. But right now, I mean, McCarthy with just 85 yards of passing offense. I don't expect that. I'm not sure he gets over 200 today. I think we'll see. maybe in the second half things open up a little bit more, but I think at least at the beginning, Michigan starts on the ground.
Kelin, what'd you see out of Kyle McCord in that first half? Obviously an early interception that set up Michigan in good field position to eventually punch in the Corum touchdown, but also responded with the touchdown as well.
I think we saw exactly kind of what I expected from him. This is his first time playing in the game. His first year starting. He made that kind of mistake in the pick where he stared down Marvin Harrison. He almost made another one in the red zone where he stared down Cade Stover. Mike Barrett just had it ripped out at the last second. On the flip side, you also see why Ohio State has him as their starting quarterback. This is a program that could have gone out and gotten Sam Hartman as a transfer or another transfer quarterback if they felt like what they had in-house was not up to par. He was a five-star recruit coming in. They took him over J.J. McCarthy. And so you've seen some of those throws downfield where you're like, yeah, you see the talent. But it's just all about that consistency from McCord. And throughout the season, game to game, and also within the game, staying consistent within the game. And so I think if you're Ohio State, you're looking for more consistency from your quarterback, and you saw that really in the second quarter.
And we'll see J.J. McCarthy and the Wolverine offense first here in the second half. McCarthy 8 for 11, 85 yards. That one touchdown pass, that was a laser to Roman Wilson for the 22-yard score. That gave Michigan an 11-point edge in that first half. Ohio State again responded with Ibuka. Here we go, the second half from Ann Arbor. Fielding's kick is returnable here for Samaj Morgan. Catches it at the 5, working left, has a couple blocks, gets a hole, spins around, spins out of a tackle, and then is down at the 23, and that's where the Michigan offense will set up shop to open this third quarter.
And a big start. I mean, big quarter here for the Wolverines. I mean, this is a Michigan team that has given up just 14 total points in the third quarter defensively, and that all came last week against Maryland. They hadn't given up a single point in this quarter before, so Ohio State's going to look to flip that script.
I was really hoping that they didn't give anything up against Maryland so I could drop that stat in the OSU game, but
McCarthy starts in shotgun, one tight end and 3 receivers in the formation. Bring Roman Wilson from the bottom to the top in motion. Corum is to his left, snaps back. McCarthy drops back quickly. There's Loveland over the middle, makes a man miss at the 27, and then rumbles his way up to the 42-yard line. Quick start for the Wolverines and a quick read for J.J. McCarthy.
Yeah, and that's the definition of an arm tackle by Tommy Eichenberg. He's got to make that tackle right there. Eichenberg's been so good for Ohio State all year, projected to be a day 2 pick in the NFL draft. It's right in front of him.
6'5", 245. You're not bringing him down with just your arms. That's Colston Loveland. He's only a sophomore, but he's one of the best tight ends in the country.
And we've got Alex Orji in the ball game for the Wolverines with Khalil Mullings in at running back. Samaj Morgan in there in there as well in motion. Comes in motion again. It's a fake handoff to Morgan, and then Orji pops free, gets a hole on the right side of the offensive line. Another big pickup for the Wolverines into Buckeye territory at the 37. Orji on the keeper, and the Wolverines with a big-time play.
And Orji's going to stay on here. How about this? I mean, we thought maybe they opened the playbook up a little bit. I'm a little bit surprised they come out with that special play call right there, and Orji getting another snap here.
And how about that from Sharon Moore? I mean, we talked about going into this game, we'd see some wrinkles. Alex Orji in at quarterback, and he rips a big one there on the ground.
Same set on the field. Orji in the shotgun with Mullings. Here's Morgan in motion. This time Orji again keeps it. Another trap play. Orji slips out of a tackle and then gets piled up at around the 35. Back-to-back plays of Orji up the middle, and then McCarthy comes back in for the Wolverines.
Doesn't get much better than that if you're Michigan. I mean, you give Ohio State something that they haven't seen all year on film, and I'm sure Ohio State's going to do the same later today, but huge pickup there. Good execution from Alex Orji.
2nd and 8, ball at the Ohio State 35. 13 minutes and counting here in the third quarter of this football game. McCarthy takes a snap, hands to Corum off his left, spins through, picks up a gain of about 3. It'll bring up a pivotal 3rd and 5 here early in this third quarter. Couple big plays for Michigan on this drive. Colston Loveland over the middle, and then Orji up the right side.
And we wondered if they could get the ground game going here in the second half. Already, they've gotten it going, 25 rushing yards on the ground. in this half, a little differently than we might have expected, with 20 of those coming through Orji.
Wilson and Johnson split out wide for the Wolverines. 2 tight ends in there as well. McCarthy's in shotgun. It's a fake handoff to Corum. Bootleg right. McCarthy's being chased and now throws it. Did Wilson keep his foot down and catch it before his body hit the ground? Officials will come in and confer. It would be enough for the first down. And they're going to call it a catch.
But Michigan's got to go here, Dan. They got to get the snap off so they don't get a review on this.
They're calling it a catch at the 26. Michigan set and ready to go. No substitution, so nobody be hold. Just waiting for the ball to be spot. McCarthy's in the pistol with McCorum at his back, and now they're going to take a look. And this was close, folks. Corum was leaning at about the 26. His body was above the out-of-bounds white. 1 foot was in, it did seem. It's whether or not he made the catch while his body was still hovering above that white.
And now we get that second peek at it on the Jumbotron here. And I think he's going to be out of bounds.
I mean, it looked like that left elbow clearly touches the white before the ball gets to him. It's a good effort.
Let's see if we can get that slowed down. This is real. I think it's a little closer than maybe it initially looks.
You know, to Dan's point in the first half, I mean, how many reviews have we had? How many controversial, not controversial, but close calls have we had?
The margins have certainly come into play here. Otherwise, it would be a 4th and 5 for the Wolverines at about the 32, 33 yard line. It'd be a 50-ish yarder upcoming, assuming they elect to take the points. It's been a good drive here for Michigan. 2 big plays. Colston Loveland made Eichenberg miss over the middle of the field and then brought out Alex Orji to rumble up that right side for a big gain. Big call here. They're taking their time. And here's the call. And the disapproval of the crowd lets you know it's an incomplete pass. It'll be 4th and 5 from the Ohio State 32, and James Turner is on for what is a massive field goal attempt. It'll be 50 yards. His career long is 50, season long of 50 as well. Does have a little bit of help from the wind. Ohio State fielding missed a kick from 52 going this direction to end the first half. See if Michigan can capitalize. Doman the hold, snaps back, kick is up. And it's through. James Turner, a big 3 points on the board for the Wolverines. Michigan 17, Ohio State 10. Opening drive of the third quarter results in 3 points for the Wolverines.
The Ann Arbor kid, James Turner, getting into action right there, making a big impact on this game. Wow, you know, James grew up a Michigan State fan. Now wearing maize and blue, makes a big 50-yarder in the game for the Wolverines. Does it get too much better than that? I don't think so.
And coming into this game, coming into this season, kicker was one of the biggest areas of question, one of the biggest question marks for Michigan. And right there you see James Turner make a big-time impact on this game by sinking that 50-yarder. Obviously, with Jake Moody last year, it was almost a given. Anytime you trotted him out there, it was going through the uprights. But obviously now he's kicking on Sundays for the 49ers. But James Turner, Lou Groza Award finalist at Louisville, was really, really good there. Big, big play there from James Turner to make it a touchdown lead for Michigan.
Kick caps a 6-play, 46-yard drive. Took up 3 minutes and 10 seconds of clock. 11:43 here in the third. Thank you for tuning in here on YouTube or WCBN FM Ann Arbor 88.3. We are happy and honored, really, to be here presenting this edition of the game. Close game at halftime, as it's been the previous 2 editions, which resulted in Michigan victories where Michigan scored 28 points in both of those second halves, outscoring the Buckeyes total of 56-17 in those to pull away and grab statement wins. Got 3 points on the board here early. How does Ohio State respond here, Neal, and what kind of is their game plan here?
Again, I think like Michigan, I'm not sure they deviate too much from the game plan that they had coming into this game. I think Ohio State, not necessarily right where they want to be, but it's not like they're in a position they don't want to be, if that makes sense, where you're down a possession, you have the ball early in the third quarter. Biggest thing is just try to get points out of this, and I think they try to get it going on the ground game. It's going to be interesting to see, though. Travion Henderson, we noted in the first half, walked off the field, or limped off the field, and we didn't see him later in that drive, and so a little bit of a question mark of his health. You know, he's always dealt with a lot of injuries so far in his Ohio State career.
So we wait for the end of the media timeout. Tommy Doman gets ready to boot it away towards Xavier Johnson. Kyle McCord, 12 of 19 for 156 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception today. Costly interception at that. He'll get the ball back here. Doman's kick is over the head of Johnson and into the Michigan end zone. So McCord and the Buckeyes will take over at the 25-yard line. Have struggled to run the ball today, only 37 yards on the ground, averaging 3.1 yards per carry. They have had success through the air, getting Ibuka, Marvin Harrison Jr. in space.
And, you know, if you're Michigan, you're in the position that you want to be. You have a touchdown lead in this game. They want to try to just continue to have control, unlike what they did against Maryland last week. Try to stay on top of this.
McCord in the single back. Under center, Henderson's the single back. It's a fake to Henderson. McCord steps up in the pocket, and he's going to get dropped. Mason Graham beat the edge and dropped McCord. And a big start for that Wolverines defense.
And Neal, Dan, this Michigan interior front is the best in the country. They're deep, they're really good, and you get good interior push there from Mason Graham, who's only a sophomore.
Buckeyes hurried to the line in shotgun, and now they'll look to the sideline. McCord is there with Henderson in the backfield. Ibuka, Fleming, and Harrison Jr., the receivers. Will Johnson on Marvin at the top of the screen. McCord drops back, looks, there's Harrison Jr., makes the man miss at the 27, and then skips away from Rod Moore for a little bit and picks up an Ohio State first down at the 36-yard line. Marvin Harrison Jr. making a couple men miss.
Reminiscent of the pick that McCord threw. He stared at Harrison the whole way on that slant. The difference this time, Will Johnson wasn't in his hip pocket, able to make the catch was Marvin Harrison, and then completely dumps him on the spin move.
Big play for the Buckeyes. McCord now in the pistol with Henderson behind him. Sends Fleming in motion from the top to the bottom. Snaps back. It's a handoff to Henderson working left. Jump cuts to the right before he's met by a pile of Michigan players led by Braden McGregor at about the 39-yard line. A pickup of about 3. 2nd and 7 with 10:22 left here in the third.
And going back to that sack, Michigan's edge pressure has not been great all year. Interior push has been their key.
Ohio State goes quickly, set up the screen to Ibuka. It gets some room on the outside. Michigan was not prepared for the hurry up by Ohio State. Ibuka got some room on that outside and is into Michigan territory at the 46-yard line.
And I like the decision by Ryan Day and McCord there with a little no huddle after converting that first down.
Again, McCord in shotgun. They set up quickly, now look back to the sideline. Henderson's the lone back. Stover still in there. Fleming, Ibuka, Harrison Jr. They bring Ibuka into the formation. Snaps back. It's a handoff to Henderson working left, who has a hole and then is met by a pile of blue jerseys at about the 43-yard line. Another pickup of 3.
Neal, look at that gap filling by the Michigan defense. I mean, at the line of scrimmage, the offensive line creates a couple of holes there, and then you see from the 2nd and 3rd level the safeties and linebackers flying down to fill.
9:22 and counting here in the third quarter. Ohio State driving. 2nd and 7 at the Michigan 43. Again, McCord in shotgun. Henderson to his left. Ibuka, Harrison, and Fleming at the bottom of the screen. Now Henderson moves into the pistol formation. Snaps back. It's a handoff to Henderson working right, and Rod Moore comes up from his safety position to make a play. It'll bring up a massive 3rd and 1 at the Michigan 37.
And Ohio State at times this season has struggled in short yardage situations. Can you get that 1 yard? Can you get the push from the offensive line? This is strength against strength. The interior offensive line of Ohio State against the interior defensive line of Michigan. I don't know if Ryan Day wants to attack that front.
Same set for the Buckeyes in shotgun. They'll bring Ibuka in motion from the bottom into the formation. McCord hands it off. Henderson up the middle. He's got a bit of a hole, and he's got enough for the first down to the 34, and the Ohio State drive continues.
Well, just as Kelin mentioned right there, I mean, the interior of the offensive line for the Buckeyes right there, from left guard to right guard, all had a push of at least a yard or two before Henderson even touched the ball. It's a pretty nice lifestyle as a running back when you get the ball and you have at least 1 or 2 yards already picked up for you.
Trainum checks in for the Buckeyes. An efficient drive so far for them. 8 minutes to go here in the third quarter. Buckeyes trailing by 7. Ball on Michigan's 34. Fresh set of downs here. Ibuka in motion at the bottom. It's a handoff to Trainum, who's going to bounce it outside. Makes a man miss on the edge, and then picks up a gain of 12. Was able to get around the Michigan edge and pick up an Ohio State first down.
And poor job setting the edge there for Michigan, but credit to Julian Fleming on the outside for Ohio State. Set a good block and held it on Josh Wallace, able to spring train him for an extra 6 or so yards.
Some Michigan fans aren't happy, but great block by Fleming, keeping the hands inside the hip pockets right there.
Ball at the 22, McCord under center. Trainum behind him, sends Stover in motion to the left. It's a pitch to Trainum, who has some running room, picks up about 6 before he's tripped up by some Wolverines.
Well, and I tell you what, Kelin, doesn't it seem like Ohio State's taking a little bit of Michigan's game plan right now? Just pounding it up Michigan over and over, and the Wolverines not really able to do too much right now. They need something just to set the Buckeyes back in the chains here.
Ohio State doing a great job, just like you said, Neal, pounding the rock.
30 yards on the ground on this drive for the Buckeyes. Got a heavy set out there. G. Scott back up tight end in there. Harrison Jr. split wide at the bottom. It's a handoff to Trainum up the middle. Massive hole again before he's met by Rod Moore at the Michigan 11. It'll be a first down for the Buckeyes with 6:30 left to go here in the third.
Super efficient work here from this Ohio State offense coming out of the half. Michigan with some good wrinkles comes away, but only with 3 points. Ohio State, they are cruising right now.
I mean, that was just that was a hole of almost like 5 yards wide up the A gap right there. Great job by Carson Hinsman, the center.
McCord still under center. Henderson's back in the ball game. He sends Fleming in motion from the top to the bottom. It's a handoff to Henderson, makes a jump cut and into the second level. Tripped up by Hausman here, but Ohio State's in business at the 3.
Michigan has problems right now. I mean, these are massive holes that the Buckeyes are creating up front.
Ohio State working quickly. McCord in shotgun. Henderson to his right. It's a handoff to Henderson. Jump cut, and he's into the end zone. Touchdown, Buckeyes. How about that response from the Ohio State offense? Dominant up front and on the ground. And we're an extra point away from a tie game here.
That was the best drive this Ohio State offense has put together all game. I mean, just like a hot knife through butter. Wasn't massive chunk plays, but good run after catch, poor tackling at times from the Michigan defense, and excellent execution in all phases from Ohio State.
Fielding's extra point is good. Michigan 17, Ohio State 17. 5:35 here left in the third as we take a TV timeout. But you said it, Kelin. The Wolverines got shredded on that drive, specifically up front.
Flat out. They got flat out shredded. I mean, there's no other way to put it. That looked like a Michigan drive to what Michigan does to other teams, where it's just consistent execution, pounding the football rushing for like 6 or 7 yards a carry. I mean, that was excellent stuff from the Buckeyes, and I'm sure Ryan Day is very pleased with the play of his offensive line up front.
It was a 12-play, 75-yard scoring drive that took up 6 minutes and 8 seconds of clock. McCord only threw 2 passes on that drive. What do you see from the big boys up front for Ohio State there, Neal?
I mean, it was interesting, too, because Ohio State didn't have too much going on schematically up front by the offensive lineman right there. It was just a lot of straight-up one-on-one blocking and create the gaps. And so I mean, Carson Hinsman, Matthew Jones, Donovan Jackson, the interior of that offensive line did a great job. And that's just a killer of a drive for a Michigan defense that's been so good all year long and throughout this game as well. It seemed like they couldn't do anything right there to stop the Buckeyes. Another thing for Ohio State is that it gives their own defense a lot of time to rest up on that sideline and get ready for a Michigan offensive possession.
You can feel the tension beginning to build here in the big house. Critical 20 minutes of football left to be played, but man, this game has lived up to the billing so far.
Dan, you want to talk about tension? Every undergraduate student here, since they've been a student, has not seen this Michigan football team lose at the big house. Senior through freshman, since they've become a student, they have not seen this team lose at the big house. And obviously you have students that were fans, that have been to games before, that had seen Michigan lose here. But for a large portion of the students that are here today at the University of Michigan, they have never seen their football team lose at home. Since they've gone here, have seen them lose 3 times. Twice in the playoff and at Michigan State. That is it. They've never seen them lose to Ohio State. They've never seen them lose at home. And so this is a situation that, as a fan, what a lot of these students are likely feeling is very new. They're used to being on cruise control the whole time.
No, that's a very good point. I mean, Michigan's streak is at 21 straight home wins. 21. I mean, that is a very, very long time since the COVID days that Michigan has won or hasn't lost a game at home. It's tied for the longest since 1998 through 2001 for the Wolverines. They've been on it at home, and so you got to wonder, how does Ohio State overcome that home field advantage that it seems like Michigan always feasts on?
These fans haven't been here for a Michigan home loss.
Not Michigan has been dominant at home since COVID under Harbaugh. They've been excellent in Big Ten play as well. The only loss at Michigan State 2 seasons ago. Another opportunity for the Wolverine offense. They had some success on the last drive, put up 3 points on a 50-yarder by James Turner. Fielding's kick is over the head of Samaj Morgan, and the Wolverines will get their offense going at the 25-yard line after another media timeout.
And speaking of Samaj Morgan, Kelin, at what point do we see a gadget play for Samaj Morgan come out? He's been so good as of recently for Michigan their last 2, 3, 4 games, where Michigan's got him going on end arounds, on some sweeps, and sometimes even on deep balls. I mean, the true freshman has made his mark for this team so far this season, yet to really do so today.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised that they haven't gotten him as involved so far. We saw him come through in that jet motion on the 2 Alex Orji plays when Orji was in at quarterback. There were fakes to Morgan, but other than that, he has not been involved at all. And that really surprised me. I thought he was going to be one of the focal points for Michigan, get some bubble screens. I'd expect at some point today, Michigan has set this up all year where they've run these. They'll have trips set to one side, and they'll drop back, usually Samaj Morgan, to receive a screen, and the other 2 receivers will go block. I would not be surprised if at some point today they set that up and sneak out one of those receivers on a route downfield and fake the screen to try to take a shot.
Yeah, Samaj Morgan with 4 touchdowns on the season, 2 of those on the ground, 2 of those through the air, over 200 all-purpose yards. You got to wonder at what point that comes out.
We saw Sharon Moore go to him late in the Maryland game last week. They gave it to him on an end around, and he scored from 13 yards out. And so I think that he's somebody you've got to get the ball in his hands because he is so explosive, so dynamic once he has the ball, and you've got to manufacture some touches for him.
Certainly do. He was on the field for a couple plays on the last drive as Orji faked some handoffs to him, but I'd imagine that a Michigan offense looking for some sort of explosiveness here could turn to the young freshman to make some plays for them.
It's big time now for both of these teams. Ohio State just went down and scored. They punched you in the mouth, quite literally. That's something this Michigan defense hasn't seen all year. When you think about it, sustained drive downfield like that for a touchdown, where Michigan was just getting consistently beat play in and play out. This defense has not seen that all year, and how do they respond, and how does the offense bounce back?
No, and I think, to that point, one thing about just getting beat on, play after play for 5-6 yards on the ground game is that it rips the soul out of a defense. I mean, it's one thing to have a deep ball to Marvin Harrison Jr. that makes up a whole drive, because you can try to shore that up. Not as much with consistent great plays on the ground game.
Michigan starts at the 25 with Barner in motion, McCarthy in shotgun, Corum to his left. JJ will check into another option. Wilson, Johnson, Morris, the receivers at the bottom of the screen. It's a handoff to Corum. Jets his way forward for a gain of about 5 on first down. Up to the 30. We'll bring up a 2nd and 5 here for the Wolverines.
And that's a good play to stay ahead of the sticks, but we have not seen those big runs pop yet for Michigan. And I know Ohio State, we talked about at the top of the show, they're playing more that cover 1 with that safety back to prevent some of that stuff, but Michigan has not been able to pop one on the ground yet.
McCarthy spreads it out in the shotgun. Corum to his left. Light box for Ohio State. 4 receivers in a pattern for the Wolverines. Snaps back. McCarthy looks over the middle. There's his man, Colston Loveland, on a slant. Pickup of about 9. And the Wolverines have a first down to the Michigan 40-yard line.
Colston Loveland has just been so efficient today, man. I mean, that's his 4th reception of the day, up to 44 yards through the air. I mean, he's just been so good at working across the middle. And JJ, great ball right there.
See if Michigan can build some momentum on offense in a bit of a pistol jumbo set here. Edwards the back, Bredesen in the backfield as well, the fullback. Wilson and Johnson at the bottom of the screen. It's a straight handoff to Edwards. Churns his way up the middle for a gain of about 3.5 to the 43-yard line. 4:12 and counting here in the third. Bring up a 2nd and 6.
And it looked like there was a little bit of a hole there for Edwards to run through, but that closed up real quickly. This Ohio State defense has done a real great job fitting those run lanes.
McCarthy again in shotgun. Corum checks back into the ball game. Roman Wilson, the bottom of the screen in motion. Cornelius Johnson at the top. It's a fake handoff to Corum. McCarthy has time in the pocket, now is flushed. Has plenty of room to run, though, and he'll take off, and he'll get past the 50 and keep going and dive down in Ohio State territory at the 41-yard line. J.J. McCarthy using his legs and making a play for the Wolverines.
You almost had to wonder at what point in this game was Michigan going to use J.J. on a possible run. Of course, that wasn't planned right there, but the playmaking ability of J.J. McCarthy to bounce outside and get some yards, well done.
Lots of guys on the line for the Wolverines. McCarthy in shotgun, Corum to his right. Now they'll come back, get a new play call. Corum shifts to the left. Johnson and Morris, the receivers at the bottom of the screen. It's a handoff to Corum up the middle. And gets about half a yard on the play. This Ohio State defensive line has done an excellent job so far today.
Yeah, so stout. And back to that last play. Excellent job, Carson Barnhart on the edge. Starts to get beat a little bit. Does not hold. Notice his quarterback is starting to break out of the pocket. Does not get caught with a hold there. And JJ's able to do his thing. Little McCarthy magic for a big gain. But excellent job from Carson Barnhart not to hold on that last play and cost Michigan the big pickup.
It's like Colston Loveland's got some blood. He'll jog off the field here. Barner's in there. He's been a trusty backup tight end for the Wolverines this year. Michigan in shotgun. Trips at the top of the screen. Now they'll send Morris in motion from that trips. McCarthy has time, looks, little dump off pass to the man Barner over the middle, who's rumbling down to the 22-yard line. A little tight end slip, picks up a big gain for the Wolverines, and we've got an injured lineman on the field for Michigan.
Oh my goodness!
Appears
this does not look good.
Appears to be Zach Zinter.
Oh my goodness!
Senior leader.
Oh man, I think his leg fully just came out from under him, and I don't think he will be playing football for a little bit of time here. The Michigan players immediately put their hands on their helmet. It looked like Zinter's leg might be a little disfigured.
And a hushed
silence
has fallen over the crowd here in Ann Arbor.
You can hear a pen drop in the 110,000.
And instantly the stretcher is on the field.
Yeah, that was
no.
bad.
This is not good.
Since they're so not only integral to obviously the play on the line. I mean, he's a guy that could have gone to the NFL last season and been a day 1 or day 2 draft pick, but just the part of the heartbeat and the core of this team. One of these guys, him and Keegan especially, the interior offensive line, were just so important to this team in so many different ways, and this is just a devastating blow to not only the team, but
almost the entire Michigan team taking a knee. Several Buckeyes as well.
Yeah, I was just going to say, great sportsmanship here from the Ohio State Buckeyes. JT Tuimoloau, as well as many other Buckeyes, down on one knee. I mean, it looked awful.
They've got his
left leg.
got his parents out there as well.
Yeah.
A senior day cut short for Zach Zinter in the most unfortunate of fashions.
Tough, a guy who, certainly will be headed off to the NFL, decided to come back for this season with the goal of winning a national championship in mind. And the season's going to be cut short. Tough kid, though, no doubt about it. He will recover from this long term and, hopefully have a long pro career ahead of him, but just a killer right now.
Certainly is. They haven't shown a replay since the initial. Kind of gives you an idea of how gruesome it could be. As a "Let's Go Zach" chant rings out from the Michigan faithful, led by the student section.
Goosebumps. I mean, how about that? The whole Michigan sideline is walking out of the field now.
Zinter, the North Andover, Maryland kid, still down on the field.
Can see the culture.
How much these guys love each other. And, I mean, this, you saw from Carson Barnhart, the grief that came over him as soon as he realized what had happened. I mean, he was absolutely heartbroken and
had to be consoled by McCarthy. Trevor Keegan clearly visibly upset as well.
Yeah, I was a little confused because I was looking at A.J. Barner after that catch, and he immediately went down on his knees and put his hands to his helmet. And I was confused what was going on. But then he looked at the rest of the maize and blue helmets. They were all doing the same. Not too often you get the big house this quiet when it's a packed crowd, that's for sure.
No. And he's on his feet before lay down into the stretcher. He'll get some pats on the shoulders from his teammates, coaches, potentially a few opposing players as well.
there's not a single maize and blue jersey still on that sideline.
You'd imagine he'll get one more ovation from the crowd. As he receives some medical attention and treatment.
Just a horrible circumstance for sure. And for Michigan too, I mean, not to get back to football so soon, but that's something that can be tough to shake off too, and immediately get back to playing a game, and Michigan's going to be tasked with that for sure. Same thing with the Ohio State players who, by the way, again have shown great sportsmanship throughout all this.
Just a heartbreaking scene here from the big house as he puts up a fist.
Looks like they had the air cast on him. Similar, as unfortunate it is, to what happened to Jordan Travis last week for the Florida State Seminoles. Their star quarterback went down. His leg also got clearly disfigured, and they immediately had to put the air cast on and took him off.
And for Michigan now, looking at, to go back to football, who's going to slide in there? It looks like
Tronte Jones
will slide in at right tackle, and then they'll kick Barnhart inside to guard.
Still a very experienced line. And somehow we return to football with McCarthy in the shotgun, Corum to his left, Bredesen and Barner in the ball game, Wilson and Johnson at the top of the screen. Corum now shifts to McCarthy's right. Michigan at the Buckeyes 22. Two minutes and counting here. It's a handoff to Corum. Bounces around, makes a man miss. Breaks free at the 12, and Corum's going to score. Touchdown, Michigan. How about that?
Absolute chills running down every single person's spine right now at the big house. The following play, the offensive line opens up their biggest hole of the afternoon, and Blake Corum scampers right through for a 22-yard score. Oh my goodness. I mean, you have to know that Zinter in that tunnel going up, presumably to an ambulance, has to be smiling as he heard the roar of the crowd there.
Turner's on for the extra point, snaps back, hold is good, kick is good. Number 2 from 22 yards out for touchdown. Number 22. And with 1:55 left here in the third quarter, the Wolverines retake the lead, 24-17. How about that run from Blake Corum?
I mean, just as Kelin said, I mean, we've talked about it the whole day, how we haven't seen a great big running play for Michigan. There haven't been too many holes. And how about the storyline right after they lose one of their brothers, Zach Zinter, to just a horrible injury? The offensive line immediately steps up and creates that massive hole for Blake Corum off the left B gap.
The Zinter injury was a lateral ankle rotation, and then, like you said, Dan, they immobilized it with an air splint to transport him.
What a response, though, for Michigan. I mean, what a response. Ohio State gets a touchdown. Wolverines come right back, hold on to this 7-point lead, and now, once again, the pressure is back on Ohio State.
7 plays, 75 yards, and 340, capped off by a Corum 22-yard scamper. Doman's kick is into the end zone. The Buckeyes will look to respond, and will start at the 25-yard line of Michigan. The wave of emotion here in Ann Arbor, the ups and downs, the ebbs and flows. My goodness.
If this place wasn't loud already.
They call it the game for a reason, folks. McCord responded last time. How will the Buckeyes respond this time? Henderson in the backfield. McCord is under center. Harrison Jr. out there with Xavier Johnson in motion. It's a pitch to Henderson. Good edge set by Michigan. Henderson picks up a gain of 1. Josiah Stewart blew that play up from the start.
Just nowhere to go for Travion Henderson. I mean, that whole Michigan front did a great job sealing the edge and maybe got 1 there.
This Michigan front is just so disciplined, guys. I mean, Josiah Stewart right there, once again playing the contained man, does his job, forces Henderson to go back up the middle right into Jenkins.
McCord in shotgun, sends Imuka in motion to the bottom of the screen. Henderson's to his left, the snap's back. McCord looking, has time, steps up, delivers over the middle to the seam. Big hit by Quentin Johnson to knock the football out of the hands of Imuka. He had it for a moment, and then 2-8 came and took it away from him. It'll bring up 3rd and 9.
And Kelin, Mike Barrett was not set at the line. Kyle McCord clearly saw that as the linebacker had to move out and play coverage on Ibuka, which is always going to be a horrible decision. What a great job by Quentin Johnson to realize that and come over with the help.
And Quentin Johnson, with so much experience, a grad student comes in and just lays the boom.
McCord in shotgun gets the snap. Wolverines bring pressure. McCord steps away and spikes it into the dirt in front of Cade Stover. 3 and out for the Wolverines.
Wow.
And this crowd is making their
Henderson.
presence felt.
Travion Henderson, Mason Graham, we're talking for at least 5-10 seconds after that play. The officials didn't even come in to break it up. But, Kelin, it feels like the momentum has completely shifted on its head here for Michigan.
I mean, clearly an emotional moment on both sides, and Michigan rallying around their brother there.
From the 26, Ohio State will punt on 4th and 9. Jake Thaw is back for the Wolverines, standing at his own 34. It's Jesse Mirko. He's had a good day. Punting. Flag is out immediately, and this punt is not very good. It'll bounce at the 40 and roll to the Michigan 31. We will check the marker. It was thrown immediately as the snap was back.
Potentially a neutral zone, perhaps, but
Could
usually
be
they'll whistle that
offside.
dead.
Yeah, they were looking at the Ohio State sideline there, which leads me to believe that it's on Michigan here. But we'll see the call.
And it looks like an illegal alignment or shift by the Buckeyes. We're still waiting on the official call. An illegal formation. Michigan will take the 5 yards from the end of the kick and get the ball at around the 36-yard line. 57 ticks left in this third quarter. Wolverines coming off a big-time touchdown drive on that scamper by Corum.
And Dan, you talked about it. That was not a great punt from Jesse Mirko. Tack on the extra yardage on the penalty. Michigan's getting it at their own 36. Pretty good field position to take over here.
Chance for the Wolverines. Samaj Morgan, the lone receiver at the top of the screen. Barner and Bredesen in as well. Edwards is the back. McCarthy's under center. It's a fake handoff to Morgan in motion, and they get Edwards going right. Nearly slipped out of a tackle at the 40. Eichenberg with a big-time wrap-up. Otherwise, Edwards had a big gain in front of him.
That was exactly what we saw twice last year at the shoe. Similar kind of runs where Edwards was able to bounce it, find the gap, but Eichenberg with a nice tackle there.
Edwards just not quite the burst to get outside and churn up yardage. Michigan 2nd and 6 upcoming here. Likely the last play of the third quarter. 25 ticks and counting. McCarthy in shotgun, Edwards to his right. Johnson, the lone receiver, at the bottom until Wilson joins him from motion. McCarthy throws it out to Wilson, who catches the ball and gets stopped. Forward progress is stopped at around the 46, and a little bit of extracurriculars at the end. I did not see a flag fly.
And Michigan's got to be smart here.
Wilson was in a bit of a tussle with it looked like the safety Josh Proctor. No flags, still waiting on the spot. It looks like a first down is being given on the field. It is. And the Wolverines are up 7, 24-17, and we've got 15 minutes of football left. What a quarter. What a response by the Wolverines. Obviously losing Zach Zinter, big hurt, but the response with Corum on the 22-yard touchdown run, right now the difference in this football game.
Fantastic response by the Wolverines. They've shifted this game and flipped it and turned it around back on its head in favor of themselves. The momentum is back for Michigan, and they got to be feeling good. I think they're at the point now where you got to feel like for the Wolverines, they will be needing to try to extend this lead here early on in the fourth quarter. And if they can do that, I talked about following the script of 2021, be very similar in terms of taking a 2-possession lead. Michigan will be certainly feeling good about themselves there, Kelin.
Yeah, this has been, a great quarter from Michigan there. Obviously, you give up the score, but you maintain your one touchdown lead, and it doesn't get much better than that. You're going into the fourth quarter with a lead. You've got the football. You're driving into Buckeye territory. Have to come away with points on this drive, though. Make it a 2-possession game. Put the onus on Ohio State to go out and make plays down the field. Force them to be aggressive. And when you do that, maybe you get Kyle McCord to give you one back. Maybe you're able to force a turnover and then really put this game on ice. But Sharon Moore, I think, has coached an excellent game so far. I think his decision-making has been really solid. I've liked a lot of the play calling. I think he's been effective in changing things up, adding wrinkles, but hasn't gotten too cute with it. He's kept Michigan's identity, played physical football, but again has been able to mix in some shots, mix in some different wrinkles to keep OSU on their toes.
And Michigan's now winning the battle on the ground after that last drive. Sharon Moore mixing it up, bringing Samaj Morgan in motion, using Alex Orji to try and use some creativity to get that ground game going, and it's worked perfectly for him.
It certainly has. I mean, when you look at the stats, when you try to break this thing down a little bit, it's just been such an even match between these two heavyweights. Ohio State with 269 total yards, Michigan in comparison with 250. The Wolverines with about 50 less passing yards, but 30 more rushing yards. We talked about how important the rushing game would be for Michigan. They're up to 111 right now. 2 touchdowns have come on the ground for the Wolverines, with the third being through the air for J.J. McCarthy. You got to wonder, I mean, what a great situation this Michigan team is in. What a great game we have today. We've long talked about what this means for both of these teams. But, folks, it's the final chapter of an era. It's the final chapter of a Big Ten East that features these two top heavyweights that have decided the Big Ten East battle 5 of the last 7 years and will do once again for the 6th time. It might not ever be like this again between Michigan and Ohio State again, with the expansion to the college football playoff to 12 teams, with the expansion of the Big Ten Conference to 18 teams, and the riddance of the 2 divisions. Michigan and Ohio State, they might end up playing, for all we know, more than one time in a season. And for all we know, this game might just be a prelude, a preseason type of match to a playoff in the postseason. But Michigan now, they got to take advantage of it. What does this final act of this book have left for us, of this story left for us? The Wolverines lead at 24-17 as we head into the 4th quarter. And Dan, real quick, what does Michigan need to do to come out on top? What do they need to do on this drive specifically to extend this lead?
I think they need to stay ahead of the chains. And what I mean by that is pick up 4 or 5 yards on first, maybe even second down, so that they're in a manageable 3rd and short.
And so here we are, back to action. McCarthy pitches it off. Edwards is going to look deep. He's throwing. He's got Loveland caught at the 25, and then Loveland gets dragged down by the Buckeyes, number 6, Sonny Styles, but it's a huge first down. A backwards pass to Donovan Edwards, and he hits Colston Loveland wide open deep. Ohio State bid on it.
And we saw this from Michigan 2 years ago in the Big Ten championship game against Iowa. Michigan been pounding it in the second half all season. Ohio State bites, and Donovan Edwards, not the perfect throw, but a good enough throw to get it to Loveland downfield for a huge pickup.
McCarthy now 1st and 10 for the Wolverines at the 20. Edge of the red zone. McCarthy checks the play call. 2 receivers off left. Max Bredesen along the line. He goes in motion left to right. They hand it off to Corum, the shotgun back. Runs it up forward for about 2-3 yards. They say it'll be 2nd and 8.
And we're starting to see a little bit of push from that Michigan offensive line. Those double teams are coming in nicely, getting up to that 2nd level. Those runs that went for negative yards or even 0 yards early in this half are starting to turn into 2 and 3, and that's how Michigan's starting to assert themselves in this football game.
And this offseason, Michigan made it a priority to build depth on that offensive line. They brought in 3 transfers at the offensive line spots, and it's showing here.
Twin set for the Wolverines. 2 receivers left, 2 right. Colston Loveland all the way far right. McCarthy in the gun. Donovan Edwards off his left hip. They send Loveland in motion. Goes to the right edge of the line. They'll hand it off to Edwards, breaking it free up the right side. And he goes up to about the 15-yard line. This will make 3rd and 5 for the Wolverines. Jack Sawyer on the tackle.
I'd expect Sharon Moore to dial up something quick here on 3rd and 5. Don't want to put the ball in danger. The 3 points are critical to give Michigan that 2-possession cushion here. Obviously trying to pick up the first down, but Don't want McCarthy hanging back there too long and making an untimed, unforced decision.
With the way possessions have gone in this second half, they're at a premium. Teams have been taking up long chunks of clock on these drives.
True freshman Samaj Morgan out of West Bloomfield is in. Trips left for the Wolverines. They send Bredesen in motion. McCarthy takes a snap, goes to Morgan. He gets hit, breaks the tackle. Morgan racing up the left sideline, eventually gets dragged down around the 19. Michigan loses 4, and that will make 4th and 9 or 8 for the Wolverines here.
Yeah, and that makes it an easy decision for Coach Moore. You think maybe if Samaj Morgan picks up 3 or 4 there, you got a 4th and 1, 4th and 2. That's a tough call. At this point, take your 3 points, take a 2-possession lead, and trust your kicker.
Wolverines at the 20, they mark it. This would be a 37-yard field goal for James Turner. Already made one earlier this game. Turner, the kick is up, and it is good, the officials say. Michigan extends their lead to 10, 27-17 in favor of the Maize and Blue with 11:57 to go in this top 3 matchup at home.
And here's where that field goal from Fielding at the end of the first half plays a huge factor. It's a huge impact here because it's a 2-score game now. Ohio State, if that field goal is good in the first half, 1-possession game, you're not out of it at all. Now you need the ball twice. You need to get stops now.
Michigan has won the special teams battle today. You think of the 2 field goals, the 50-yarder and then the 52-yarder that Ohio State missed right before the half, as long with that punt from Tommy Doman to pin the Buckeyes back deep. Michigan's won the special teams battle today, and in a game that we've talked about is going to be a defensive battle. It's going to be a grind where possessions are paramount. The special teams can be that fine margin that's separating these teams.
A 7-play, 44-yard drive that took exactly 4 minutes off the clock results in a 38-yard field goal from James Turner, his second of the day, as I mentioned. It's exactly 3 o'clock. We want to say hello again to our listeners on 88.3 FM as well as YouTube. We want to thank all of you, as we always do here at the Student Radio at Michigan, for your listening and for your support, as we've always received so much support for the Student Radio. Guys, Michigan's got to feel good. They're up 2 possessions here. Kelin, up 10, I mean, they're in the spot that they want to be. If you're Ohio State, though, there's got to be points coming out of this drive, right?
You have to be. If you're Ryan Day, you need to come away with points on this drive. I don't want to say you need to come away with 7 because you want to come away with 7 on every drive, but this is a drive where you're not holding anything back. Anything you were saving for later in the game, any tricks you have in that bag, you're pulling them out now. You're trying to get downfield. And let's not forget, the last Ohio State possession, they drove right down the field and scored. I mean, that was the best they'd looked offensively all day. So we'll see how this, 2 drives ago. Michigan forced a 3-and-out on the last drive. What can Ohio State do here? How do they respond?
Talked a little bit about the trickery or creativity. We've seen that with Michigan. Samaj Morgan, the Donovan Edwards backwards pitch pass to Loveland. It's time for Ohio State to pull that out if they've got it, as you've mentioned. We'll see what Ryan Day's got up his sleeve.
And Xavier Johnson, a dangerous return man back there for the Buckeyes. I'd expect him to try to take this one out.
And just as you both mentioned, Buckeyes got to break out all the stops here. Maybe that even means an aggressive Ryan Day decision on 4th down. 11:57 to go here in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Tommy Doman will kick this one away at the 35-yard line. We're looking at it left to right, and Doman's kick goes out of bounds. That's going to be a flag, and the Buckeyes are going to start from their own 35.
Of course, just as I praised the Michigan special teams, Doman boots it 12 yards out of bounds. It wasn't even close to the red zone, but big-time start to this drive for Ohio State. Excellent field position. Got to think they've got to capitalize here.
I mean, absolutely. This is prime time now. This is essentially like you got an awesome return from your return man. You need to capitalize here if you're the Buckeyes.
Prime time it certainly is, as the fans are aware that what does this final act in this era of college football between Michigan and Ohio State have? McCord in the gun. Gets the wave to go by the officials. They send Fleming in motion. 2 receivers off right. McCord hands it off. Henderson up the middle. charges ahead to the 40-yard line. A good pickup of 5 for the Buckeyes.
And I believe that was Rayshon Benny that got a big arm out there to slow down Henderson. Henderson had a hole. As we get a chance to see the replay, looks like it was Jalen Harrell that came around to stop that. That could have been a big play.
McCord now under center. Buckeyes go quickly. They hand it off. Henderson races up the right sideline and gets pushed out of bounds by Mike Barrett, but not after Henderson got the first down at the 47-yard line.
I like this start for the Buckeyes. They've had some success in up-tempo against this Michigan defense. You can still run the ball. There's still 11 and a half minutes left in this game, but if you're going to do it, you got to go up-tempo, and I like what they're doing here now.
Yeah, 25 seconds left on the play clock. We'll see if the Buckeyes continue to go hurry up here. No one's on Marvin Harrison Jr. at the top. Eventually they switch over Josh Wallace. Fleming in motion. Bunch set off the bottom for the Buckeyes. McCord in the pistol back. Drops back. Looking. McCord fires it deep for Harrison, who makes the catch on the right sideline. And it's actually Julian Fleming at the 25-yard line. A back shoulder pass on Josh Wallace complete.
Have not seen Will Johnson on the field on this drive. Sanders still is out there in coverage. Josh Wallace is out there in coverage. It's a big miss for the Wolverines in this fourth quarter.
He kind of limped off last possession toward the sideline and was still standing over there. Haven't seen him go to the locker room. We'll keep an eye out for him.
So first down for the Buckeyes. Line to gain is the 15. McCord in the gun. 2 receivers off left. Throws his hand down. Then fakes the pitch. Eventually throws it outside, looking for Henderson. Throws it in the dirt. It's incomplete. It'll be 2nd and 10.
And if you're Ohio State, those plays have been killer. McCord has been, I'd say, very up and down today. Some of those throws, like that throw he just made to Fleming, was an awesome throw. And then you have that right there, a wide open running back in the flat that he just completely misses. There's been 3 or 4 of those today with those 3 or 4 excellent throws.
Looked like it got deflected by Derek Moore off the left edge, bringing some great pressure for the Wolverines. So here we go, 2nd and 10 at the 25 of Michigan. McCord in the pistol set, Henderson behind. They send Fleming in motion from right to left. Harrison's alone on the left. McCord takes a snap, hands it off. Henderson up the middle and gets about 2 yards. That'll make this 3rd and 8 for the Buckeyes.
And that's where that tip from Derek Moore, that's huge now, because that's probably a 4 or 5 yard pickup from Henderson. Now you're at 2nd and 10. That run sets up 3rd and 8. 3rd and long now. Big chance for this Michigan defense to get off the field.
And here come the Buckeyes at the 23, and here comes the crowd more importantly. 3rd and 8.
And this is where Michigan can get into their stunts that they like to do up front, looping guys around and get some pressure at Kyle McCord. Big time play here in this football game.
Twin set. They eventually roll out Henderson and bring back Xavier Johnson next to McCord in the shotgun.
They've got Stewart on the inside here.
Here's the snap. McCord hands it off. Xavier Johnson, the receivers, running it forward and has a first down up to the 15 or 14-yard line. Buckeyes convert on the 3rd and long.
And Josiah Stewart was lined up on the interior that time. Dan talked about those stunts that Michigan likes to run. They thought this was a clear passing situation, and Stewart unable to get off the block as an edge specialist on the interior.
My goodness, the tensions are certainly rising in the biggest stadium in the country. McCord in the pistol set. 2 receivers off right. 1 to the left. It's Julian Fleming. They send Buka in motion. Henderson's behind Kyle McCord. The junior from Pennsylvania takes the snap, hands it off to Henderson. A little bit of a misdirection. Henderson up and gets stonewalled for a yard, if anything.
Michigan defense has done a good job of bottling up Travion Henderson today. Only 60 yards on the ground, averaging about 3 yards a carry. He was one of the key players to stop for this Wolverines defense, and they've done an excellent job so far this afternoon.
It'll be 2nd and 9, ball at the 13-yard line. Trips left for McCord and the Ohio State offense. Buckeyes in white. They check the play. McCord looking at the sideline towards his coaches.
It's like McBurrows is one-on-one with Harrison Jr. here. That's where I'm looking if I'm Ohio State.
They keep that. Is it man coverage is the question. McCord drops back. Looking, 3-step drop. Fires it right across the middle. Touchdown, Marvin Harrison. Just as Dan said, a little bit of a mismatch for the Wolverines, and Marvin Harrison was wide open on that little 3-yard drag.
Yeah, Harrison just came right across the middle of the defense there, and Michigan, he just got lost flat out. None of the linebackers picked him up, ran with him, and he had McBurrows just trying to chase him across, and there's no chance you're keeping up with 18.
And so Jaden Fielding will attempt the extra point. He's only missed one on the season for the Buckeyes, and this one, the hold is down and kick is up and through the uprights. It's back to a 3-point game in Ann Arbor. Number 3, Michigan leads number 2, Ohio State, 27-24 with 8:05 to go. You're listening to WCBN Sports on 88.3 FM and YouTube.
Ooh, baby. I mean,
here we go.
Here we go is right. 8 minutes left, 3-point game. Who's going to come out on top? This is where the rubber meets the road. If you're Michigan, you've got to come back and score here. I mean, you don't want to get it. So this is a one-possession game, and Ohio State can go down and take the lead at a moment's notice. You need to keep the pressure on the Buckeyes, and this is where it's fun. I talked about it in my open. This is college football at its best. Two teams that absolutely hate each other. Two states, to schools, to fan bases, to teams, to locker rooms that hate each other's guts. And there's so much on the line right now. I mean, both of these teams truly believe that they are national championship caliber, and they are. But the way that the format is, only one of them is going to make it. These are probably 2 of the 4 best teams in the country. If you were to get rid of resumes and everything and just rank them and say, all right, who are the best 4 teams in the country? These 2 teams are 2 of the best 4. But only one of them is going to make it.
Marvin Harrison Jr. on that touchdown ran about a 4 or 5 yard drag over the middle. Kind of ran away from that line, those Michigan linebackers. He's had a lot of success on those underneath routes this year. Obviously, he's shown the big play ability, but he's a 3-level receiver, and that's why he's so special. Speed to get away from people, the body, the size, the athleticism to make big-time catches down the field, and we'll be seeing and hearing a lot of his name on Sundays in the future.
65-yard drive for the Buckeyes off of 8 plays that resulted in 3:52 being taken off the clock right there, resulting in a 14-yard touchdown for Marvin Harrison Jr. and 7 points being thrown on the board for the Buckeyes. Kelin, we've gone back and forth here with scoring a little bit. Do you almost feel like whoever gets stopped first or next might be on the losing side here?
It kind of feels like that could be the case, but here's the thing. Both of these defenses are so good where they can get a stop. I mean, we've seen Ohio State march down the field like that twice today. We've also seen them go 3 and out a couple times today because these defenses are so good that if you get behind the sticks, it's tough to get back. But at the same time, both of these offenses have playmakers. For Michigan, I'd say it's probably J.J. McCarthy that can just make something happen. And for Ohio State, it's the skill guys that can pop one, break a tackle, and anything can happen.
And you mentioned getting ahead of the chains, the sticks. It's more critical for Michigan to do so. Harrison Jr. or Travion Henderson can make a play at any time. Ibuka as well. Michigan is a little bit more reliant on J.J. McCarthy to make that play. So this is a big drive for Michigan. 1, to try and get some of those points back, but 2, to take some time off the clock and shrink this game down, make it so that the next drive for Ohio State is a must for the Buckeyes.
If you're Michigan, you would love to march down the field, take 6 minutes off this clock, and come away with a touchdown. I mean, that is the dream scenario where you're able to just salt this game away on the ground. But Ohio State's defense has been very stout against the run today. I mean, that last Blake Corum 22-yard carry was the best we've seen all day.
So sophomore Jaden Fielding will kick this one away. Samaj Morgan is waiting his kick here deep. And here we go. Over Samaj Morgan's head, and we'll have a touchback once again. So Michigan will set up shop at their own 25, led by true junior J.J. McCarthy. What do they have in store for the rest of this game here?
Could be a legacy drive for the young man. Obviously 2-0 against the Buckeyes, had a legacy game in Columbus last year with his 3 touchdown passes, but you seal away the Buckeyes, win 3 in a row, and send Michigan back to the Big Ten title game. Shoot, Michigan legend.
Wolverines get the ball back up 3 here. 2 receivers off right for J.J. McCarthy. Loveland goes in motion. Corum's next to him, takes the snap, fires downfield, got Cornelius Johnson for about 5 yards, and he gets dragged out of bounds by Denzel Burke.
That's ridiculous. What a throw that is. That's the opposite hash to the opposite sideline out route. If any of Ohio State's corners are sitting or jumped at all, it's 6 points for the Buckeyes. And McCarthy's on the money and on time with that throw.
I mean, that you said it, Dan. That ball needs to be a laser to the outside, and McCarthy has the arm talent to get it done. Big pickup there.
Trips left for the Wolverines. McCarthy in the gun. Quorum's off his left hip. They send Loveland in motion to the left side of the line. Cornelius Johnson alone, standing near the 30 marker. JJ staring at the sideline. Checks the play. They got to go here. 2 seconds on the play clock. They get it off to Quorum right up the middle. And Blake gets stood up immediately after picking up about 2 yards. That'll make for 3rd and 2.
You have to wonder if that was just kind of a quick check. You're not able to get into what you want, and you just check to a dive.
Ohio State did have a bit of a softer box there. I think Michigan felt comfortable that they could run that ball in there, but safeties crashed for the Buckeyes. Sonny Styles in there, an extra body. Massive 3rd and 3 here.
Absolutely huge play with 6:50 to go in the game. Bunch set for the Wolverines. 2 tight ends in. They send Wilson in motion. McCarthy takes a snap. Looking. Fires right across the middle to Cornelius Johnson, and he has it for the first down. Immediately got dragged down by Jordan Hancock.
Big time stuff from number 9 right there. I mean, that's a tight window throw that he puts on the numbers to Cornelius Johnson. Johnson holds onto it through the contact, and whoo, I mean, you talked about it, Dan. Creating that legacy for number 9, J.J. McCarthy. You go win this game today, take your team back to the Big Ten championship game. They're going to talk about you for a long time in Ann Arbor.
How about those strong hands by number 6? Johnson hasn't been as involved in the passing game as probably much as he would like this season, but big-time catches when he needs them.
Wolverines with 3 receivers off right. They hand it off. Quorum up the middle, charges ahead up to the 42-yard line. Great pickup, makes 2nd and 4 for the Wolverines.
And we talked about Michigan, Dan, staying ahead of schedule, staying ahead of the sticks. That's the definition of that right there. 6 yards on the ground on first down. Now brings up 2nd and 4. Whole playbook's open here. You can take a shot if you want. You can hand it off again. You can take an intermediate route, play action. Everything's available for you.
Choose up another half minute of the clock as well. Like you said, that offensive line starting to gain some traction here against this Buckeyes defensive front.
5:30 to go. Wing T formation. 2 running backs in. Donovan Edwards and Khalil Mullings. Roman Wilson split off to the right alone. McCarthy takes a snap, hands it off. Edwards moving left. Edwards has a first down and still going. He keeps those legs churning with the offensive linemen pushing him forward, and they eventually mark forward progress at their own 48-yard line. Michigan keeps the chains moving here.
And more importantly, keeps that clock ticking. Under 5 minutes to go now. Obviously, 3-point game. You need to come away with points here, but trying to play Michigan football, Sharon Moore football, Jim Harbaugh football.
Every first down's an extra 90 seconds or so off the clock for the Wolverines. They've picked up 3 of them on this drive so far. Excellent drive they've got going.
Wolverines, yeah, keep in mind, Zach Zinter went down, the right guard, with a horrible injury. Carson Barnhart now in at right guard with Trenti Jones next to him at right tackle. They hand it off to Blake Quorum up the middle again. Eventually cuts back to the left and gets thrown down at Ohio State's 48-yard line. It'll be 2nd and 6 for Michigan.
And again, continuing, stay ahead of the sticks. 4-yard pickup on first down. That's great. 2nd and 6 now. You can run it again. They're getting that push. You're keeping options available, keeping the defense on its toes, and perhaps you continue to pound it. You set up the chance to take a shot downfield and make this a 2-score game again.
Wouldn't mind seeing a little play action here. Something quick. The shot would be lovely, but don't necessarily need a shot here. Just something to move the chains again here for Michigan.
McCarthy in the gun. It's Quorum right next to him. 2 receivers off to the right. Barner's in at the end of the line as the tight end. They send Loveland in motion. JJ takes a snap. Gets a big block from Loveland. JJ rolling right. Fires across the middle to Cornelius Johnson. Does he have it? Yes, he does. What a diving effort by Cornelius Johnson at the 43-yard line of Ohio State. And that makes 3rd and 1.
And what a throw from J.J. McCarthy. Oh, my goodness. Flushed out of the pocket. Big hit laid by Colston Loveland on a free rusher. Huge block to spring McCarthy. And J.J. keeps his eyes downfield, throws back across the middle of the field, which gives a coach just nightmares, but finds Cornelius Johnson. Huge play.
Boys, we're hitting crunch time here. 3rd and 1. McCarthy in the gun. Hands it off. Quorum right up the middle. First down, Michigan. All the way to the 40-yard line. And they continue to keep the chains moving. J.J. McCarthy, a guy who's been told by his head coach, Jim Harbaugh, to be the best quarterback in Michigan history, getting his chance with his great running backs right now to put this game on ice.
And I'd imagine this is where Ryan Day of Ohio State starts to use those timeouts. Try and give his offense another possession. Excellent drive by Michigan, already taken up 5.5 minutes here in a fresh set of downs in Ohio State territory. We're at the point where one more first down, and Michigan's heading back to Indianapolis.
Both teams have the full complement of timeouts.
2:20 to go for the right to head to Indianapolis for the Big Ten Championship. McCarthy hands it off. Corum breaks it outside left. Corum up to the 30 and then gets thrown down at the 26. It's another first down for the Michigan Wolverines. And the little guy making plays with those quick legs, Blake Corum once again.
And we finally saw that patented Corum bounce it out left. A lot of big men up front, not a lot of holes. Corum said, whoop, let me take you out to the outside.
And we just talked about it right there. Ryan Day uses his first timeout.
Yeah, first timeout of this half for either team used right there. Michigan leads at 27-24 in the game at the Big House in Ann Arbor, Michigan. 2:07 to go. Buckeyes down to 2 timeouts. Michigan with the ball marked at the 25-yard line.
And
wow.
All the momentum with the Wolverines right now, but you need to come away with 6 points and score here. You need to punch this into the end zone. We saw Kyle McCord against Notre Dame. Hostile environment in South Bend. Back against the wall, lead his team all the way downfield and punch it into the end zone as time expired to win that football game. This game is not over, folks. Michigan is cooking right now, but you have got to stay disciplined. You have got to finish this drive that has been fantastic from Michigan. Textbook so far from Sharon Moore in this offense.
Certainly has. They've executed when they've needed to. 6 minutes already off the clock on this drive, and with 2 timeouts left and a fresh set of downs, Ohio State will stop it 2 more times. Michigan should not go to the air. This will be 3 straight runs, maybe 4 if they're feeling frisky to try and get that first down to end the game. But essentially a first down that takes up a couple plays here ices it for the Wolverines.
And you got to think ball security has to be the #1 priority here for Michigan. You got to think Sharon Moore, the acting head coach, has to be talking about that.
Penalty discipline as well. They've done an excellent job. Of course, we're going to knock on some wood here right now, but Michigan's played a clean game. It's been an excellent, clean drive. They just need 2 to 3 more plays of really good execution.
To your point, a very clean game overall from both sides. Michigan with just 2 penalties for 22 yards. Buckeyes with just 1 for 5 yards off an illegal formation. How about this? What a great crowd here in Ann Arbor. A little bit of a chilly day, around 40-ish degrees, but the fans have showed out in maize and blue. A decent amount of scarlet red here for #2 versus #3, and right now #3 is 2:07 away from heading back to Indianapolis, despite not having Jim Harbaugh, their head coach.
And here we go. This is where we find out a lot about these 2 teams here. Find out a lot about #9 in the maize and blue.
This is where the dollar bills are made for future NFL contracts. This is where head coaching contracts are made, and this is where dreams are made. J.J. McCarthy under center, bunch set to the right. It's A.J. Barner, Loveland.
Got to imagine this is going to 2.
They hand it off to Corum. Cuts back. Blake, another cut, and then gets tackled at the 23-yard line. It'll be 2nd and 8 for Michigan. Looked like it was Tyleik Williams on the tackle right there for the Buckeyes, and immediately Ryan Day uses that 2nd timeout.
And Tyleik Williams has been fantastic. He had a great shed on another run on this drive to make a good stop. Tyleik Williams and Michael Hall Jr. have both been fantastic on the interior for Ohio State today, and although Michigan's done a good job getting some push on this drive, I'd expect Ohio State to clamp it up here. You're getting a timeout each time. You get to catch your breath. You get to set yourself. Michigan's going to likely have to go to the air at least once or twice if they want to keep these chains moving.
And Dan, if you're Ryan Day in Ohio State here, you have a 2nd and 8, 2:03 to go. You're going to be able to stop the clock one more time. What is the play call defensively? Are you just throwing everything in the box here?
I think you're stacking the box here and leaving one safety high. I think you got to say, look, Michigan's going to try and spread us out here, maybe to get a lighter box so that they can get their O-lineman up to the 2nd level, and then it's all about tackling because Corum makes one man miss. it's over for the Buckeyes here, because that first down, the end zone, big deal, but the first down ices it as well. So tackling critical, and lane filling also critical. Need to make sure your guys are on the same page. Who's got what lane? Make sure and it would be helpful if somebody would shed a block up front and make a play.
The Buckeyes sideline, I tell you what, man, they just look somewhat dejected right now. They know the time is ticking off right now, this clock. 2:03 to go once again. Number 3, Michigan leads number 2, Ohio State, 27-24. In this showdown at the Big House for a spot in the Big Ten Championship against the Iowa Hawkeyes. Kelin, before we go back to action here, is there any chance that this isn't a handoff to Blake Corum right up the middle?
I think there is, and I think you have to be careful here if you're Michigan not to get too complacent. Obviously, you have the lead. You're up 3. You're driving right now. You're almost into the Ohio State red zone, and everything's going well. But, again, there's still 2 minutes left. Ohio State has 1 timeout left. This is plenty of time to go down and score a touchdown, even if you're forced to settle for 3. This is plenty of time for Cal McCord to work with. We've talked about it all day, how good these playmakers are for Ohio State. Marvin Harrison, Michigan's done a good job holding him in check. 4 catches, 96 yards, 1 score. Only been targeted 7 times, which really surprises me. I was expecting him to for sure have double-digit targets, and there's still a chance that he gets there. But you can't be complacent. You need to stay on top. Be the aggressor still. Don't let Ohio State dictate this game to you. And I know Sharon Moore has trust in his offensive line, trust in that group, but you have to stay aggressive here if you're Michigan.
And to your point, Marvin Harrison last year, 7 receptions for 120 yards and a touchdown. Held under 100 as of right now, though he did get a touchdown. Here we go, 2nd and 8. What does this game have left in store for us? 2:03 to go. McCarthy's in the gun. Corum's next to him. 2 receivers split off right next to each other. It's Roman Wilson. McCarthy claps his hands, gets a handoff. Blake Corum gets his handoff right up the middle to the 21. So a pick of about 2. That's going to make 3rd and 6. The line to gain, keep in mind, is the 15. And the Buckeyes are going to let the clock continue to roll out here. They still have 1 timeout.
It's an interesting non-timeout by Ryan Day, because I think it opens up the playbook a little bit for Michigan. If you know that they don't have the timeout, more likely to potentially hand it off to keep that clock running. But Ryan Day not using it, trying to save it for your offense. I think if it's a dead ball, they were going to call it anyway, likely. So
seems like Sharon Moore is going to let this one. Yeah, he's keen on letting this one go all the way down in terms of the play clock. He's standing right next to the line judge, waiting for it to hit about 1 or 2 seconds as he does. So Michigan uses their first time out of this second half. The game clock stops at 1:15. A 3-point advantage for the number 3 Michigan Wolverines, and they'll have a 3rd and 6. Convert and the game's over, Kelin. And a Jim Harbaugh-less Michigan is headed to the Big Ten Championship and possibly the college football playoff.
It doesn't get bigger than this if you're Michigan. This is what you've worked all season for. You've executed all season. We've seen the pictures of J.J. McCarthy after the Orange Bowl and the Fiesta Bowl sitting there watching the opposing team dance in the confetti and hoist up that bowl game trophy, knowing they've punched their ticket to the national championship game. Those pictures are cool, but you've got to have that chance to follow up on that, and that's what he wants, and this is where you get that. You execute here.
Real quick, what's the call here, Kelin?
I'd like a bootleg for McCarthy. Get McCarthy moving out to the right side probably, and give him a chance to use his feet or make a play. Maybe a read option even. Do something to get McCarthy's legs involved.
Ball on the left hash at the 21. Line of gain is the 15. 3rd and 6. Michigan hands it off. Corum dances his way up forward and gets about a yard or 2. That's going to make 4th and 4. And Ryan Day immediately runs in to call the timeout. 1:08 to go. Maybe not what you wanted if you're Michigan right there.
I would have really liked for Michigan to be a little bit more aggressive on that 4th and 6.
You know, boys, I think it's possible Sharon Moore was planning on going for it all along. See, James Turner's out there, but he's talking to the offense right now.
You think so, Dan? I mean,
oh boy,
that is a tough decision to make if you're Michigan, to say instead of having a 6-point advantage. Man, I mean, here we go. Kelin, what do you think?
And they're going to keep the offense on the field. Wow.
Wow, and listen to this crowd. They're starting to realize what's going on.
This is for the game. We'll see. They could. It is only 4 yards. They could try and get him to jump off sides.
That's a very good point.
Michigan still has some timeouts here.
Wolverines, yep, they do have 2 timeouts. Buckeyes with none. 1:10 to go. 4th and 4. One play for a shot to head back to the Big Ten championship. What is it? McCarthy's in the gun. They send Wilson in motion. Corum off the left hip. JJ runs up to the line. Are they trying to just draw him off? JJ now under center. Looks back out to the right sideline of Sharon Moore in Michigan. And I think, Dan, you're right. This play clock is going all the way down, and Sharon Moore is going to use the timeout. Buckeyes did not bite. It seemed relatively obvious there what Michigan was trying to do on 4th and 4.
Yeah, you take the 3 points here. I mean, I would have appreciated a more aggressive call on the previous thing, although, having them lose their timeout here. But at this situation, you make it a 6-point game. You make Ohio State find the end zone, but my, oh my, we are going to have a tension-filled last drive here in Ann Arbor.
Whoo! First-year starter Kyle McCord is likely going to get a chance to go all the way down the field in Ann Arbor and try to snatch the soul out of the Maize and Blue faithful. I mean, Kelin, can words even put it into perspective how hard that will be?
It's as big as it gets. I mean, going into South Bend, I don't know that completely prepares you for what is going to be going on here. But got to execute on special teams first. James Turner has to knock this through.
Michigan brings out the kicking squad. It's James Turner as the kicker. Tommy Doman will hold. Turner's 11 of 13 on the season. He's already made 2 today. The kick is up, and it is through the uprights and good. Michigan extends the lead to 6. But that might not be enough if the Buckeyes go down the field, score a touchdown, and get the PAT afterwards. 30-24 with 1:05 to go. Michigan leads the game. You're listening to WCBN Sports on 88.3 FM and YouTube.
So let's break it down here. Clock stops after a first down. If you're Ohio State, that's big. Incompletions stop the clock. So 65 seconds is plenty of time to get down the field. You still have to execute, though, and get 6 points. Sacks are killer. You cannot take a sack if you're Kyle McCord. And if you're Michigan, you absolutely have to find a way to get pressure on Kyle McCord. Make him uncomfortable. Get weird with the stunts. Get your pass rush specialists out there and find a way to get him under duress.
We talked about the ideal drive for the Wolverines there. They got half of it. They got the 7 minutes off the clock, but they did not make it a 2-score game. Touchdown likely wins it for the Buckeyes.
1:05 to go. Tommy Doman's going to kick it away. Xavier Johnson is awaiting it. Johnson's going to take this, the senior. Catches it at the 5, races forward. Races forward to the 20 and then gets tackled. A swarm of Maize and Blue got him at the 19.
And so a 6-yard drop there. And maybe 6 yards isn't a huge deal in the grand scheme of things, but every yard counts. That's 81 yards down the field instead of 75 now.
And here comes the crowd. J.J. McCarthy is sprinting down the sideline of Michigan to get the student section going, and you can hear it. 60 seconds to go to settle this top 3 matchup.
Curious to see how much pressure Michigan's going to bring on each of these sets. Obviously, need to protect that end zone, but if you let Kyle McCord have all day to throw, somebody's got to break open, you'd think, for the Buckeyes.
Still no Will Johnson for Michigan. That's a huge loss.
Where do the Buckeyes go? Is it Marvin Harrison Jr., the Heisman favorite? McCord's in the gun. 2 receivers off left, 1 to the right. McCord takes the snap, drops back, looking, fires right to Cade Stover, and he drops the ball. It comes out. It's likely going to be an incomplete pass. Yes, it is. And guess who made that hit on Stover once again like he did last year? Mikey Sainristil.
Almost would have been better from a Michigan perspective as Stover hung on and fell down in the field of play. Stops the clock for the Buckeyes, but brings up 2nd and 10 here.
Yeah, if you're Michigan, you want it. You want that clock to keep moving.
So here we go. 2nd and 10 for the Buckeyes. Down 6 with 55 seconds to go. McCord's in the gun, takes a snap. Kyle McCord floats it deep for Marvin Harrison, who makes the catch at the 40 and then gets thrown down by Sainristil. The clock is going to stop momentarily as they move the chains.
And that's a huge pickup. Who else are you going to other than 18? I mean, no Will Johnson in the game. He's got the size advantage on Sainristil. Let him work.
And so they start winding the clock again. 45 seconds to go. Trips right for the Buckeyes. McCord drops back. Kyle McCord's going to throw it deep, and it's caught. Oh, and the ball's out. Julian Fleming lost the ball, but it's picked up by Abuka. Oh, my goodness, 34 seconds left, and the ball is being marked at the 39-yard line. Was it a catch?
And you might get a replay here.
I think they're going to rule that a completion.
Here we go. McCord in the offense going no huddle, and eventually the officials are going to stop this and review it. Well done by Ron Snodgrass to look at this one again.
My first look says this is right on the edge of.
This is going to be a tough call.
Yeah.
And as Snodgrass is saying to the fans, they will be looking at this one again as they get the headsets ready for the center official, or center referee, excuse me. We've talked about it a lot. We've had a lot of reviews today, a lot of close calls. Not necessarily anything that I think either side would be frustrated about, but this one's huge. I mean, a big pickup of 21 yards to Julian Fleming, who then lost the ball and had it picked up by Abuka. I mean, Kelin, Dan, how big is this play?
Massive. I mean,
I think they're going to call that incomplete.
I'm not sure he makes a football move there. It looks like he takes 2 steps, but I'm still not sure he tucked the football. It's a massive call, and how about Abuka being in the right spot if they do call this complete
boy,
fumble.
this is right on the edge. Great job by
Josh
Wallace to punch that football out.
I mean, it looks like, he takes 2 steps. This is right on the definition of between being a catch or not. What do the officials do? They're going to take their time for sure.
And obviously the call on the field was a completed pass and a fumble, so maybe that, there's not enough evidence to overturn it, could be huge.
And keep in mind, if this is ruled as to be stands as called, they'll wind the clock and start it on the official's whistle. Something to just keep in mind with 34 seconds as of right now on the game clock. Once again, Michigan leads the Ohio State Buckeyes 30-24.
Oh, this is such a big call. And going back, the Stover catch right there was another one where it just kind of bang, bang. They ruled it incomplete. So you wonder if they'll look to stay consistent.
It all comes down to this. I mean, the last minute of the regular season for these two heavyweights, these two state rivals, and I tell you what, the referee is starting to mark down notes on his notepad. Usually that indicates that this one's going to be coming back. What's the call from Snodgrass? All the tensions are in there. Oh, wow. It stands as called. So the Buckeyes will have it at the Michigan 39. It's going to be 1st and 10, 34 seconds to go. Likely the game clock will start on the official's whistle here. Mark that, ball on the 37. McCord's in the gun. A little bit of a wing T formation out of the get-go. Marvin Harrison goes up to the right. 2 receivers split off to the right for the Buckeyes. 1 to the left, it's Julian Fleming. Wing T formation. McCord in the gun. Takes a snap. 3-step drop back. Kyle looking deep. The junior floats it across the middle, and it's picked off. It is picked off. Rod Moore has it. Oh, my goodness. A flag's down, but that's going to be for excessive celebration. Mark that the game. The game. It is over. Michigan's going to win 3 straight.
And I want to make sure that he got his hands under the ball. There was a diving pick, but it looked like he had it. Obviously, all turnovers are reviewed, but
we can't even hear what the officials are saying. It's so loud in the big house.
They're ruling first down, Michigan.
First down to Michigan. That's all she wrote. A Jim Harbaugh-less Michigan Wolverines are going to come back into Ann Arbor 2 years after they beat the Buckeyes for the first time in 10 years and are going to win their 3rd straight. Michigan's going to be heading back to the Big Ten Championship.
Put those turnover buffs on, Rod Moore.
Rod Moore making plays as he's done all year for the Michigan Wolverines. Can you believe that? Rod Moore with his third pick of the season now. None bigger than that. Smiles all around on the Michigan sideline. The Buckeyes in white and scarlet are just dejected. The officials are going to be looking this one over just to make sure that he got the hands underneath. I can say, as someone who called the Penn State game 2 weeks ago where we thought that it was a Quentin Johnston pick, let's hold our horses just a little bit here.
They're still taking a peek at this.
Well, this would be some overturn if it was overturned. We still haven't gotten a great look at the replay on the monitor.
What a game. What a game. The Buckeyes have outgained the Wolverines today by 38 yards. Nonetheless, Michigan has the lead in the most important time of the game. Here's Snodgrass. And it's confirmed. As the maize and blue faithful just erupt, Michigan can feel it now. They're going to be heading back to a third straight trip to the Big Ten Championship. And almost a for certain college football playoff afterwards. They'll get their head coach back, Jim Harbaugh. After this game, Sharon Moore is getting a Gatorade bath on the sideline. We have one play left with 25 seconds. 30-24 is the score. Can you believe this? What a game.
To thank everyone that's tuned in, stayed with us this whole time. All 10,000 of you on YouTube right now. And
Michigan in victory formation. They take the snap and the knees down. Roman Wilson with a backflip. And Michigan's done it. 3 straight victories over the Ohio State Buckeyes. Is it not clear enough now as the Michigan fans rush the field that, you know what, maybe they do lead and own this rivalry for a little bit now. The Michigan faithful are rushing the field. 30-24 is the final score. The number 3 ranked Michigan Wolverines have held on at home in the Big House in front of a crowd of over 110,000 against number 2 Ohio State.
Said it earlier, but this game lived up to the billing, didn't it?
It certainly did. And what a season for Michigan. It's win number 1,001. A season full of turbulence, full of turmoil at the beginning of the year when Jim Harbaugh got suspended for recruiting violations. And everybody thought that's all that it was, that it would just be a 3-game suspension and we wouldn't have to talk about Jim Harbaugh not being on the Michigan sideline. Well, you know what? Later on, the sign-stealing scandal happens, and everyone said, no way this Michigan team could go win 3 of their biggest games on the back stretch against Penn State, against Ohio State, and now to go back to the Big Ten Championship. They've done it without their head coach. Sharon Moore improves to 4-0 as head coach, interim head coach of the Michigan Wolverines. Kelin, Dan, what? And I guess I'll give this one to you, Dan. What was the big differentiating factor today for the Wolverines in this 6-point victory?
There's a couple key takeaways, things that I saw kind of before in prep for this game. Michigan on 3rd down, 4th nationally. Ohio State defensively on 3rd down, 2nd nationally. That was a pretty even battle, but Michigan won on 4th down when they needed to. And then the turnover margin. Michigan was plus 1.1 on average in the turnover margin all game. They had picked off 5.04% of passes that opposing quarterbacks threw, with number 1 in the country. And they won the turnover battle today. 2 interceptions off of Kyle McCord, who, by the way, played his heart out. I thought Kyle McCord had a pretty darn good game today. But how about them Michigan Wolverines, man?
You can't say enough things about this team. To lose one of the heartbeats of this team in Zach Sinter in the 3rd quarter and respond the way they did is unbelievable. This school, this program has had a wild ride this last month. And this football team has been nothing but steady. This senior graduating class, Dan and I, our graduating class, will have never seen Michigan lose to Ohio State while we were at school, lose a game at home at the Big House and will have gone to the Big Ten championship game every season and likely the college football playoff every season. Ladies and gentlemen, understand this. This is the greatest stretch of Michigan football that has ever been in the modern sense of the game. And I don't want to be be upsetting at this point, but maybe will ever be. This 3-year stretch of Michigan football has been unbelievable, and I think you just got to sit back and enjoy it the best you can and try to live in the moment and enjoy every win with this team, because these past 3 years has been special. J.J. McCarthy is special as a quarterback, and he has the chance, if he hasn't already, to establish himself as an all-time great at this school and one of the best signal callers in the history of one of the most storied programs in college football.
And again, for the 22nd straight edition of this football game, the team that had the most rushing yards won the game. Michigan was able to dominate on the ground in that second half. Big key to that 7-minute drive to put that last drive in the hands of Ohio State, a must-have. The Buckeyes came up short, but it was the Wolverine ground game that got going, and my man Sharon Moore had one heck of a day today. Thrust into an uncomfortable, potentially, situation a couple weeks ago at Penn State. Got the job done there, got the job done at Maryland, and got the ultimate win here in Ann Arbor.
How about Sharon Moore? Let's give Sharon Moore his flowers. This is a guy that could have left last offseason to become a head coach somewhere else, stuck around, believed in this team, led back-to-back, as the offensive line coach, has led back-to-back Joe Moore award-winning offensive line groups for the best in the country, has come in, coached 4 games this season for Michigan, been 4-0. The toughest stretch of the season, these last 3 games, Penn State, Maryland, Ohio State, everyone knew coming into the year would be the hardest games of the season. What does Sharon Moore do, who's never been a head coach at in college football in his entire career? He goes out, beats Penn State in Happy Valley, goes to College Park, beats Maryland, and then welcomes the number 2 ranked undefeated Ohio State Buckeyes into Ann Arbor. What does he do? He wins that football game. That is unbelievable stuff from Sharon Moore, and I think Michigan fans would be thrilled to have him as the head coach of this program, and should be if Jim Harbaugh were to depart.
No doubt. I mean, no doubt Sharon Moore's phone will be ringing this offseason. And the future
what program
remains,
wouldn't want him?
What future remains, we're not too sure in terms of the Michigan head coaching position. But that doesn't matter right now. What does is Michigan got the win. They also, by the way, in terms of talking about the future, Kelin, they had over 50 recruits in attendance today for this game. What that does for recruiting, I mean, winning 3 straight games against your arch rivals, the supposed kings of the Big Ten, no longer. It's the maize and blue now, I think that's for sure.
I don't know how you don't have Michigan as your team. And I know next year they're going to be losing a lot. You're losing J.J. McCarthy. You're going to lose a lot. But this program has established itself as in that upper echelon in college football. So, Michigan fans, be happy. You've punched your ticket to the college football playoff. I think we can pretty confidently say that. And as members of WCBN Sports, I'm pretty thrilled to be able to be right there along with you.
And we'll see what happens with the rest of college football today. A few other, of course, noteworthy games going on, with the Iron Bowl being won. But a big conference championship weekend next week. The Michigan Wolverines, we can now for certain can say will be playing a Iowa Hawkeyes team that will be ranked. I mean, they came into this week ranked 17. We'll see if they move up to maybe 15-ish. But Michigan, a chance to for sure punch their ticket to a likely Rose Bowl is what it would be. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But, I mean, my goodness, just the turnaround of this program. We've talked about it for a long time. Kelin, you and I were lucky enough to call the Fiesta Bowl last year. And I mentioned it then, where Michigan had come back from just a desperate program. I mean, they were in the dumps, man. Nothing was going right over COVID. And Jim Harbaugh and this staff absolutely turned them around. They made 2 straight college football playoffs, and the last quest for this team is to reach the mountaintop of college football, something they haven't done since 1997. It's been over a quarter of a century since Michigan, the winningest program in college football, has won a national championship. And it feels, Dan, it feels like this team might be their best of Jim Harbaugh's.
Certainly feels like it. The most accomplished quarterback, J.J. McCarthy, now 3-0 against the Ohio State Buckeyes. They've got a powerful run game. You can see that this team is built on culture, built on belief, a belief in one another, a belief in their coaching staff, a belief in the adjustments that the coaching staff has made, and you can tell that they're made of grit. Zach Zinter went down, massive injury. We hope he's doing all right and getting the support and attention that he needs. But next play, Blake Corum, 22-yard touchdown run. Unbelievable stuff from this team, and they've earned this. They've deserved this. And, hey, next week against Iowa, be another kind of gritty test for the Big Ten title game. But
Michigan was, in the hypothetical lines, opened as about 21-point favorites in that game.
Yeah. It should not, in theory, going into that game, it will not be viewed as a close game by any means. And I can say, as someone who's watched the Iowa Hawkeyes this season, I think the better team is very clear. Nonetheless, you never know what's going to happen in one game in college football. But for Michigan to get this one, to knock it off their checklist, improve to 12-0, they haven't lost a regular season game, folks, since Michigan State in 2021.
Let's put this into perspective. Let's talk about how good this program has been, okay? Because this is elite stuff that they're doing. Michigan football has gone undefeated in the regular season 2 straight seasons. They've lost 1 regular season game in the last 3 years. Yeah. 35-1 in the regular season over the last 3 seasons. And then you talk about in-conference play, winning the Big Ten. They're going to go to their 3rd straight Big Ten championship, looking to three-peat as Big Ten champions, going to 3 straight college football playoffs. This is elite stuff.
It certainly is. And as we said, the last thing left for this Michigan team to check off their checklist, win a playoff game. Well, it's all ahead of them now. Kelin, you mentioned how this Michigan team had all the pictures from the last 2 playoff bowl games in which they lost, and a few of their players stayed on the field and watched the celebratory festivities. Michigan finally, they have another chance to rewrite the script in favor of themselves. Is it Michigan's time? They certainly feel like it is. Well, looking back at the stats today to recap, Kyle McCord and the Buckeyes put up 24 behind McCord's 271 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. He threw 2 picks, though. That was the killer. 2 picks, one that ended the game at the very end and one that led to an easy Michigan touchdown in the first quarter. Travion Henderson had 60 yards off of 19 carries and a touchdown. Marvin Harrison Jr. still hit his numbers, man, and that kid is going to be so darn good in the NFL. If you don't believe it, you certainly will after draft night, that's for sure. Marvin Harrison, 5 receptions for 118 yards and a touchdown. For the Wolverines on the other side, 30 points, a 6-point victory led by J.J. McCarthy, 148 passing yards, a touchdown, 80% completion rate.
And real quick, we'd like to thank our FM listeners for tuning in. Now we'll be handing it back over to our regularly scheduled programming. We're for Robert with Nothing But the Blues.
We got about a 3-second delay.
Sorry, Neal, but back to your point.
No, you're good. But yeah, so for the Wolverines, 182 passing yards. We said 148 came from J.J. McCarthy. Not sure too many could have thought that 34 would come from Donovan Edwards, but they did. A big conversion by Donovan Edwards to Colson Loveland in the 4th quarter, the first play of this 4th quarter, actually. On the ground for the Wolverines, 156 total yards. Blake Corum led the way with 2 touchdowns, 22 carries for 88 yards, an average of 4 per carry exactly. Alex Orji came in, got 2 carries, and the Michigan receiving corps, Colson Loveland, 88 yards off of 5 receptions, a long of 34 that came from the hands of Donovan Edwards. Michigan improves to 12-0. Number 3, the Michigan Wolverines beats the number 2, the Ohio State Buckeyes, 30-24. Dan, any last thoughts here?
Gave Sharon Moore some flowers, but really quickly, he pushed the right buttons today. He hit all the trick plays he needed to, called a great game, managed it well there at the end. And then shout out as well to the defense, making the plays that they needed to late in order to win the game. Guys like Rod Moore stepping up. Will Johnson, a big pick. We'll have to check his health because he'll be important to going forward if this team wants more than the Big Ten title and a playoff win and national championship as well. But just an all-around gritty team performance, and it starts with the head coach who's not here and the head coach who is here. And I think this is an excellent example of how great Michigan's culture is right now.
And I'll close it out by saying this, and we're student radio, so we can speculate, and who cares? Rose Bowl, here we come, baby. I know every Michigan fan out there is hoping. I know for myself. I mean, I changed my computer lock screen to a picture of the Rose Bowl back in September and said that's where I want to be on New Year's. And this football program, they've brought us about as close as we can get without it being for certain. And pending what's going on in the Big Ten championship game against Iowa, and I still think Michigan would make the playoffs even with a close loss to Iowa. But pending that game and what goes on the rest of championship weekend, I think Michigan has a good shot to be in Pasadena for the Rose Bowl. It would be awesome to see a Michigan versus a Pac-12 team in the Rose Bowl to close out the Pac-12 in the Rose Bowl the way it should be.
Most certainly. And, we don't want to diminish, of course, the Big Ten championship and what could happen in terms of playoff implications for that. There's no doubt Michigan will be headed into that game with nothing but a W on their mind. But, I mean, we can't put into words how big this is for this Michigan season. Once again,
this is real. This is 3 straight is real. 3 straight is not a fluke. I know 2 straight isn't a fluke either, but this Michigan football program is very, very real and has retaken this rivalry and retaken over the conference.
Most certainly. The number 3 ranked Michigan Wolverines at home in the Big House in front of a sold-out crowd in Ann Arbor, Michigan, come away with a 6-point 30-24 victory against their big arch rivals from down below, the Ohio State Buckeyes. Buckeyes put up a great fight, but nonetheless, Michigan had control of this throughout the whole way. We want to thank all of our listeners. Thank you so much for all the support, for listening to WCBN Sports on 88.3 FM as well as YouTube. We're always so grateful for all the comments that we get, all of the tweets that we get. And so we'll close this out by saying we'll see you in Indianapolis. We're absolutely very excited, and WCBN Sports will certainly be covering that. Thank you so much, and have a good night. For Neal Sinha and the best student radio crew in the country, and Daniel Olson and Executive Director Kelin Flynn, thank you so much, and good night.